good. Harburg, he's taking a shot. Downfield, wide open end zone. Caught, touchdown. It's Malachi Coleman.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
A lot of grass to Klubnik's left. Here he goes. Wide side. Klubnik trying to break away. He cannot. It's Corey Flag, and Miami wins.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
It is good! The Utah Utes sink USC once more in another classic.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Houston. Smith from the shotgun. Has the snap. Rolls to the right. Looks. Throws on the run. It is incomplete. Broken up by Jahdae Barron. It was intended for Stephon Johnson, the hero of the Hail Mary. And Jahdae Barron comes up, hero for Texas.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Spawn from the one, whose coverage has been strong so far tonight, but he breaks free. Deuce Spawn in a foot race. They'll never catch him. And the Noles special teams strike back quickly.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
May just barely got it away, and the ball is caught. Intercepted James Jackson for Virginia at the 42.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on a Wednesday, the middle of the week as we head towards the weekend, the last weekend of college football in the month of October. And, of course, then we hit the stretch drive in November. But games that matter this weekend, we'll get to them. We will get to a lot. In fact, former Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby is going to join us today at 4:30 with some insight. Maybe I think that from what I was told, he's got several grandkids that he gets to enjoy around the country. We'll talk to Bob Bowlsby and kind of reflect back on what he accomplished, at the same time how he reacted to the Texas and OU departure, and more about just college athletics in general. Gabe Ikard, who played at Oklahoma, Sirius XM Radio, he'll join us today. John Kirby from JayhawkSlant.com will join us on KU Oklahoma. Ricky Thompson, Paul's Top 5, and much more to get to. Don't forget, every weeknight at 10:30 on the CW is 365 Sports Tonight. Kim Coulter, one of our dudes, one of our gentlemen, and some people may disagree with that, in the chat room, sent me this picture. He's a lifelong Texas Rangers fan. He's pumped up, and his dream was Texas to play Arizona in the World Series because he lives just outside of Phoenix. There's the hat that he sent me. He goes, I pulled this out. My wife is not happy. She's an Arizona fan. Kim Coulter repping the Rangers for 365 Sports.
Well, if there's one thing I've learned about being married, even these few months, is you can't make your wife happy every day. Nobody bats 1,000, and so pick your spots. This is a good one to pick, Kim. So ride your team, ride them all the way to victory. Watching that game when I got home last night was kind of wild to see Philly at home just getting shut down in the late innings like that. I was in Arizona and Texas. This is going to be a fun series. They're both riding a wave of momentum.
Yep, they are.
And no one would have picked them when this thing started, and here they are.
Yeah, sharp-looking hat, Kim, and appreciate you. Appreciate the fellow Rangers fan, and excited to see this series. I know that there was a big collective oof when it wasn't the Phillies by some national media members. Nate Silver really just a D-bag with his comments after the game about how boring the series is going to be and how nobody cares. You know what? I don't care that Nate Silver or people like Nate Silver don't care. So whatever. As long as the Rangers, go and win a World Series, I don't care if 5 people are watching. That TV ratings, we talk about it on Tuesdays just as kind of a way to see kind of where eyeballs are in college football. And some of the times it's just the status quo, and sometimes it's interesting to see, some game that doesn't feature Ohio State or Michigan or Texas that, pops a big number. But I could not care, or I don't care at all about how many people watch this World Series. All I care about is the Rangers winning it. So, Kim, go Rangers, and good luck with the wife, because that's a really good Diamondbacks team, and this should be an interesting, set of games, however many we do end up getting here.
Their pitching staff right now is incredible. They got great individual athleticism and speed. All right, so speaking of that, so Monday night, after it all happened, I just randomly went on to fanatics.com. Paul, Rangers.
Oh, thank you.
Craig, Rangers.
Thank you.
World Series cap. Jack, Garrett. I didn't know if Emery and them were going to be here, so here's the Rangers World Series hat. Now, they got to win it, but there we are with that. Appreciate fanatics.com for taking care of us here on 365 Sports. All right, so the latest with Michigan. Oh, boy. Every day you wake up, there's something new with them, right? Every single day. This was a story by Sports Illustrated. In a lengthy exchange, part of their reports, in a lengthy exchange in 2021, Michigan's Connor Stallions, he's the one that's under kind of investigation, texted that he stole opponent signals from TV, had close relationships with the Wolverines. The entire staff had a vision for the Wolverines' future. There's nothing wrong with stealing signals, by the way, on television.
Okay, first of all, he shouldn't have said that he learned their signals. He didn't steal them, because that's the other thing about stealing signs in baseball. Well, if you figure them out, did you steal them because they're out there for you to see? So stealing them to me would be if you're doing it on video. That's stealing them. But if you learn them, then that's a different thing. There's semantics. Connor Stallions is not a very good criminal. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, he left a lot of what appear to be some maybe fingerprints. In the end, I still don't know what happens in the end. Craig, Paul, we've discussed that before. But this is pretty in-depth from Richard Johnson from Sports Illustrated. Even Ross Dellinger, who once worked there now at Yahoo, said that this was the most in-depth and details that he's even seen, even though he has been reporting quite a bit about Connor Stallions and the Michigan allegations.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, the biggest thing is what can be done. I mean, we've seen you've seen the pictures of him on this Michigan sideline holding what Ohio State now has apparently said were their signals during that game.
Well, I mean, of all people.
Yeah. I mean
Ohio State bitching about Michigan. But and that I get it if it happened, but
he's got either way. He's got a whole thing of signals. So his job was, and Michigan can no longer say, well, he had other jobs. Like, clearly his position on that staff was, you figure out the signals, because he has this big, chart of them that they're using. Now, the methods, again, are starting to be seen here. But, yeah, this is weird. But the question is, and this is what Jim Harbaugh is going to be, what are they going to do about it? Are they going to do anything about it? Well, Jim Harbaugh is still the coach at Michigan, and other than hitting Michigan right after he would leave, but if Jim Harbaugh is the coach of the Raiders or the Bears next year, what does it matter what they do to Michigan?
Correct?
Yeah, I mean, to clarify, there were some text messages between him and a guy who was, looking to, get involved and be a part of a football staff and had conversations. And so, a guy who probably we don't, have any idea even exists, and all that is now like a crucial piece to it further, shedding some light on a guy who we didn't know existed before this week in many cases. And so it's a cast of characters that we're suddenly being introduced to in another chapter of just wonky, weird college football tales. And this one with Jim Harbaugh and Michigan as the main characters. And so, yeah, he, had these text messages that show him bragging for all intents and purposes about his role and how it kind of unfolded and who he was close to on the staff and all those things, and eventually gets to the point in the article where it talks about his manifesto, which you hear that word and you shudder, because that usually comes with like school shootings or some public massacre or something like that. And so it's a word that here in America I feel like we hear that word and it's not very ever positive. In this case, it's at least something that's not along those lines and just weird. Honestly, it's a master plan for him and others or him and another guy to run Michigan football in the future. And it lays out, I guess, in great detail all of their plans and how that's going to go. And like I said, hundreds of pages. So that's a fascinating article, I'm sure, to read. But that part of the story just adds another layer of just weirdness and only college football, it feels like, has stories like this, but I know that's not the case. But yeah, it's a lot to unpack. It's a bizarre story that's getting even weirder. Like you said, stealing signals and bragging about them, that doesn't break any rules or anything like that. But it does go to show you that anybody saying there was nothing going on, there was nothing to this, there's very clearly some attachments here. There's very clearly some lines that you can draw. Now, whether you can draw them in Sharpie and prove it is one thing, as opposed to, like, can there actually be anything done about this? That I still don't know. But yeah, very clearly there was some nefarious stuff going on. I think everybody probably figured that as of yesterday. But for those maybe on the fence, I think clearly this guy, whether mostly on his own or with the direction of Harbaugh or Jay Harbaugh or whoever else he became friends with, there was a whole little setup going on. And to what depths it reached, that's the part that we still don't quite know yet. But man, it smells the high heaven of a a little opportunity by him and others to get their advantage that is so such a big thing in college football, and that we know programs go to great lengths to get. And clearly, in some form or fashion, this guy and some element of Michigan went to great lengths to try and get advantages on their upcoming opponents.
One of the other parts of the story that has nothing to do with Michigan in any way, but it was that he was able to get test scores and GPAs of some 500 midshipman classmates or those who were at the Naval Academy. There was even a quote from somebody that said that he was infatuated in a way with Michigan football. So, again, that doesn't mean what he's doing now or what he's done, but it's just kind of a little bit strange. The guy obviously knows how to get data, and, in fact, he was asked to delete all of it by the Naval Academy because that was under the Privacy Act, and I'm sure that possibly that happened pretty damn rapid.
Well, look, Jed Fish is involved in this now tangentially because there was some, he said to deny that Connor Stallions did anything for him because he said in some of his communications that when he was stationed in California, he would go to Tucson and help Jed Fish out as he transitioned into his new role. And so it's all weird. It's a very weird story, and I can't wait for the 30 for 30 about it, and I'm still curious as to what the end of it is for Michigan.
Yeah, I still wonder if anything in the end is going to happen, or are we just going to jump all into this for the next 2-3 more months until the championship game is played, or what?
I'm sorry, but I think you said he kind of was obsessed with Michigan. No, he was very obsessed with Michigan. He wrote the Michigan Manifesto, hundreds of pages of how he and another guy are going to run Michigan football one day. So that crosses obsessed to me, or that is full-blown obsessed to me. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know what amounts to what can be punished or what can be, attached to Jay Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh, any other number of people that could potentially be involved. Michigan's still saying the same things as far as like, hey, we had nothing to do with this and we're not involved in this. And you know what? The way it's being kind of framed right now, you can see the whole, here's just a nut job who was obsessed with Michigan football, who acted on his own and was doing all this. You can already see that being set up as a potential angle here. Kind of hard to imagine when you also see video, though, of him a foot away from Jim Harbaugh, very clearly talking to Jim Harbaugh during games with a big stack of papers in his hand. And, even then you can see somebody, well, that's not technically illegal either. Right. And so we're just going to go in circles. We can unpack every little note on this, but we're going to go in circles because everything is going to be met with, yeah, but is that illegal or is that this? And so I think it's a matter of, we're going to find and get into some stuff where it's not necessarily illegal or punishable, but it does draw into question of just like competitiveness and what's right and what's wrong. And look, it's college football, so there's a lot of stuff done in the dark, and there's probably a lot of people out there, burning their Ohio State manifesto right now or their Penn State or, well, let's not pick on the Big Ten entirely.
I wish the Nebraska had one.
Their Nebraska I'm sure there's one somewhere. Like what can actually be proven, what can be connected to Jim Harbaugh, what can be punishable, that we all still don't know. But, man, it's a weird story that just seems to get weirder with each passing day.
All right, let's discuss one of the topics that obviously has brought a lot of us together, college football. That's part of it, but also the continual changes in conferences. This was discussed much earlier in the year, but the AAC presidents on Tuesday accepted Army into the conference starting next season. Ross Dellinger, Brett McMurphy, Pete Thamel, among many others, all had that. So congratulations to the cadets, as they're now going to be a part of the American Athletic Conference.
And I personally will be rooting for this. I mean, it's probably never going to happen, or at least it wouldn't happen that often. But I would love to have back-to-back Army-Navy games at different sites, like a concert, like the Eras Tour, because they will still play as a non-conference game. But if they're the top two teams in the conference, they will play the week before in the conference title game. So I can't wait to see what that would be like.
When do Florida and Florida State play?
They play the last week of the year.
And then they do the next thing. What's the next week for each one of them?
Well, they'd be in their respective conference
if
title
they made
games.
it, right? So
Yeah.
that's not uncommon.
No,
right?
but they're not in the same conference.
No, that's true.
Not
Yeah.
yet anyway.
Yeah. Army-Navy will still be what it is and be separated, but you're right. It's a little bit unique. Army right now coming off a spanking of LSU because Go Tigers were very angry themselves after what has been a little bit of an off start for them based on expectations.
I think the Secretary of Defense needs to get involved in that one.
It's a great tradition. Army, I love this. They have kind of put themselves in position, and obviously they have a fan base, and there's a niche for what they do. And your thoughts about the American growing yet one more team?
Yeah, I mean, good for Army to have the opportunity. You know, I hope. And yet I do kind of hope there is a conference title matchup between those two, but I do think the back-to-back's going to be funky if it works out that way because the game itself in the regular season is going to always maintain the same prestige and pageantry and all of that, but to run it back a week later, that would be really interesting. But, we cross that road when we get to it, and that's something that, was always – a possibility in a lot of these leagues of like, hey, if you have the conference championship game, there's always the risk that you run that you could end up scheduling it to where you end up playing the same team 2 weeks in a row. And most of the time, I think that's pretty much always been avoided. But yeah, I mean, that's a possibility here now. Good for them to find a home and some, I guess, foundation to help build upon. And obviously, everybody's scrambling, trying to find their place in this new college football world. And for Army and the American, that came together for both of those sides. So, good for them, good for the conference. And that's not, a big splash in, I think, the realignment world, but it was something that was brought up a couple of weeks ago as a possibility or something that was in the works. And so good to see them get done with that and bring it across the finish line.
All right, Conference USA, right now, it's Liberty and everybody else. The Flames are now 8-0 after winning last night against Western Kentucky. 12-0 if you look at the rest of their schedule. Now, again, we say this about schools, and no matter what, there's a game that gets in your way, or somebody has a great day, or you don't play well, or the weather, whatever. But they're 8-0, and the rest of their schedule seems to be pretty simple. But they still have to go out and play those games. Congratulations, Liberty, off to an 8-0 start after the win against Western Kentucky. And I've already clinched a spot in the Conference USA title game.
Yeah, not a surprise that Jamie Chadwell's doing well. If you watch this show enough, I've never said a bad word about him. I never will. The dude can coach. I can't wait for him to get a P5 job. Maybe it'll be this year. Maybe he's only at Liberty for 1 year. I'm wondering what everybody is waiting for. If you want a coach who is innovative and different and clearly can win, and you want to give him the full tools with which to do it, I think you can do a lot worse than Jamie Chadwell. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that it's proven out in every level of sports that, retreading things doesn't quite often work. And when you get new and different, then you can really innovate. And I think that whoever hires Jamie Chadwell is going to see some wins.
Well, that's just going to create an interesting conversation if they end up unbeaten, which they're probably going to end up unbeaten. I mean, they don't play but one team above 500 in the next month, and that closes out their schedule. They play La Tech. There should be a win. Old Dominion, UMass, and UTEP. I mean, come on. They're not going to have a great argument when it comes to strength of schedule. They're not going to have a playoff argument because they've played nobody in the grand scheme of things. But, to go unbeaten, which, hey, they're still a month away. If, there's always the chance that, something goes awry. But, they got Caden Salter there at quarterback, a young man who we know from when he played at Cedar Hill, and then obviously went to Tennessee, got in trouble, got booted, ends up at Liberty, and has played really well this year. Is a dual threat. I think he had over 100 yards rushing last night, which has become kind of commonplace for him to have big yards on the ground and in the air at 4 touchdowns, and they took care of their business. So they're going to, have a pretty manageable road moving forward, and a very good shot at finishing 12-0, which will be a nice feather in Jamie Chadwell's cap. But there's not like that non-con game that you go like, man, and they beat so-and-so. But, yeah, good for them. Good for them on taking care of their business.
And then Jamie Chadwell himself on his own Twitter feed, is it me or are these Michigan fans on the 50-yard line tonight to watch the Flames, to see the Flames? There's a Michigan guy.
It is. But I don't know
probably that as a joke, I would think.
Hey,
let's go to the game and sit at the 50 with Michigan.
Well, also, he's not paying attention like Connor Stallions would. Look at this guy. He's just looking at his phone. The person next to him is
he's emailing the file.
Yeah.
And the fact that this dude's name's Connor Stallions, like that just makes the story even goofier, does it not? Like, because now you hear that name, it sounds like a porn star name or something like that. But I mean, now you hear it, and it's a name that it's rather than like any other combination. I don't think pops like Connor Stallions. So it adds another layer. But yeah, I don't think that they're too busy worrying about Liberty and a potential playoff matchup. But they do have a great shot at going unbeaten. They got a great run game. Fun quarterback, and he's doing a good job.
All right, I want to go to the Oregon State bomb alert, and I'm not making light of this, but yet again, because nothing happened. How about this one? You guys tell me if I've been, sleeping here. A bomb alert in Starship food delivery robots. Do not open robots. Avoid all robots until further notice. Public safety is responding. There are robots that deliver food?
I guess there are.
Did you know this?
I knew that there were starting to be.
So, 2 weeks ago, go and find the video. Tennessee's band was walking out. You know how they'll do a walkthrough?
Yeah.
And the robot, there's a food delivery robot that somebody was getting to the tailgate that is stuck in their band, and the band is having to walk around this robot. It's insane.
I did not know that even existed.
Yeah.
I knew robots were there, but Craig, had you ever heard about food delivery robots?
Yeah, I have. I didn't see what Garrett was referring to, but yeah, I mean, I've seen in Japan, and they've got all sorts of technology we don't have over here yet. But I mean, yeah, I don't know the extent of it's rolling around Oregon State's campus or anything. I'm not that well versed in how things are operating out in Corvallis, or elsewhere for that matter. But yeah, that's weird. I guess I don't know. I don't really have much on that. I just wasn't expecting that tweet, and yeah, I don't know.
All right,
I don't. Bracket Cat says Skynet is coming. That's precisely why I don't trust robots. And I know that the Terminator is a fake movie, but a very real possible premise of we let the robots get too much in control, and then Skynet happens, and we have to fight Terminators. I don't want to do that. I think that's a bridge too far, and it's great that there's things in technology that move past that can maybe do some things better than a human being's hands, but we're getting way too lazy.
Okay, do you have one of those
vacuum cleaner robots?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't trust that dude. I don't trust him.
How do you know it's male?
Well, I named him Frank because it tends to name it.
So,
but I don't trust Frank. I don't trust him. He runs in my house for an hour and 45 minutes every day. I don't know what he's plotting. I don't know what he's up to, but it's not my choice to have him.
I did not know they had food delivery, but that's a cool idea. Brock said, I hate robot delivery.
Never experienced it, but it sounds like, I've seen videos of it and stuff, but yeah, it seems like it'd be pretty weird.
Mike Bean, yes on robots. I saw them in L.A. this summer. From Allen, do they deliver? They do deliveries at Houston as well. Can you imagine with that massive humanity and traffic in Houston? They do delivery in Houston. I've seen them around the sidewalk. Let's see here. UH has robots delivery. Not sure if it's a private company or the university. Japan has vending machines like that. And they had vending machines when I used to be a kid in Japan. They had beer vending machines off base. You could just stick a few yen in there and pop down a bottle of cold ones. One robot went through a crime scene to deliver.
Yeah, there's not. I don't think there's any flawless, programmed robot just yet. I think that's part of why we probably haven't seen it more so than in big cities and things like that. Still working out the kinks in some ways, but yeah, there's some interesting inventions out in Japan along those lines, and I've seen some of that in America as well. I don't know how commonplace it is, Certainly haven't seen it around Central Texas here, but maybe in Austin they've got some of that going on. I don't know. But,
all right.
Yeah, that's weird.
Frank the Roomba, Laugh Out Loud Bracket Cat, thank you very much. Neelio, needless to say, the Wichita Police Department bomb squad was called in to the Home Depot because of perhaps the issues. That's what it was. Somebody alerted the police on campus, whatever, that something with one of the robots might be a little bit fishy. So there you are with that. Now, here's Rob Brenton. He does radio in Kansas City. He put up a note about Kansas. It is so frustrating as a KU fan that Saturday isn't sold out. Kansas is 5-2, coming off an entire week of rest. It's homecoming, facing a top 10 opponent. Big noon kickoff is there. Why isn't it sold out yet? Now, some of the responses to this were, yeah, it's frustrating, and that's who it is. Oklahoma, you're surprised because OU will bring a large group of fans too. We've been through that a little bit at times at Baylor, where you wonder sometimes where they are, and then we finally just got tired of beating our heads against the wall. Some games are better than others. It's just kind of so somebody, well, okay, if it's not sold out, why don't you go buy 1,000 or 10,000 tickets? That's not the point of the tweet. I get what he's saying. It's a huge game for KU. If it's a basketball game, sure, there would be no problem, but it's still learning the ropes about football games at home at KU. Yeah, I think in the end they'll have a great crowd.
Yeah, I think they will. But it's not a football school. It's a basketball school, and basketball season's about to start. They've already got people probably planning out what that's going to be. So there's, heck, I know. We're trying to figure out if we can make it up to Lawrence for a game this year, because that's going to be a big thing for Amanda and her brother and their subsequent significant others. So, I live in a house with a Kansas fan, and, she's like, oh, great, Kansas won today. And then I'll be like, yeah, it was a really exciting game. She's like, yeah, I stopped watching it in the middle. I'm like, okay, well, it's just not there with that fan base yet.
KU, according to Bracket Cat, finally stopped giving away blocks of tickets. Mike Bean saying it's $100 a ticket. So also, when you gave away, a long time ago back at Floyd Casey, they had, you buy a Whataburger, you got 2 tickets to a Baylor game. It was really tough to get people in the stadium. And, of course, at the time, they weren't very good either. But I hope that KU fans, and I hope that Oklahoma will bring some fans now. They're going to go wherever they play. And hopefully it's a sold-out game before they get to Saturday in that game that plays against the 6th-ranked Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah, I hope they have a good crowd. I think it should be a really interesting game.
If you're a student of a Power 5 school, you should be required to go to football games and be loud. There are some students on campuses that don't even know football exists. They don't. I mean, even if it's a pretty darn good school with great history and also football. From Camelo, Oklahoma fans, before it's said and done, will buy up a good chunk of whatever tickets there might be.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's not a Kansas alone problem, like you said.
Exactly.
So that's unfortunate, but it's also not surprising at all. Big Noon's going to be there, and I think that by the time we roll it, it's Wednesday. So by the time we get around to Saturday, I'm sure that they'll have it packed out. Now, how much of that's Oklahoma fans, I don't know, but that's part of, I guess, the Kansas football brand, waking up a little bit and people out there getting accustomed to a different way of life where the football program is highly competitive and they're, in the mix to win each week. And that has not been commonplace for a long time up until, the past couple of years, really. So, you'd have to go a ways back for most people to remember the Mangino days. That's forever ago at this point. So, yeah, I think it's just part of the culture up there is not as football driven, but I'm sure there's other factors like ticket prices or whatever that, eliminate some people from showing up as well. So, yeah, don't know enough about the situation up there other than that's a basketball school, and so I get it to some extent, but hopefully there is a terrific crowd, and I imagine there will be by the time the game rolls around.
I also think that people have to kind of learn along the way where they used to get tickets for free or they handed them out. And again, a lot of schools, it's not just KU. Baylor's dealt with that before and other schools as well. TCU was even in a run for a college playoff run, and they still had, at times, struggles. I think before it's said and done, hopefully somebody will buy the tickets up, a donor. Hell, Nebraska's got a great history and tradition of what they do with sellouts, and even the last couple of years, because it's been so bad, they've had to have people buy a block of 10, 1,000 or 1,500 tickets to give away, and that's as loyal a fan base as you could possibly have. Now, to USC. With the Lincoln Riley news after missing a couple of days of practice, this from yesterday evening, Antonio Morales, USC, working with compliance to make Cliff Kingsbury to acting assistant in Riley's absence. Now, you have the 10 assistants, and obviously, I don't know, I have not seen the news yet about today, practice USC, and we'll try to get an update on that. I did text Ryan Abraham, but that seemed like that perhaps they might expect him to be gone for a while.
Yeah, if that's the case, if he's going to be under the weather, I don't know what the presidential line of succession rules are when it comes to the NCAA and your 10 active assistants, but and I'm not even totally sure what Cliff Kingsbury's exact role has been on this. I have a theory on Cliff Kingsbury and USC, which if we have time I can go into later about what he's really doing there.
One of the things I need to ask is the acting head coach is Dennis Simmons, who was a part of that staff. He's the acting head coach. They're trying to get Kingsbury then to replace one of the openings as an assistant coach.
I can tell you the theory that if you want to get rid of an assistant coach, I have an idea of who most USC fans would do to get that down to 9.
Yes, who?
That would be Alex Grinch.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you're right.
If you ask them like, hey, we can only have 10, well, I can get you down to 9 in about 5 minutes if you'll let me. So, but I don't know if they're going to do that and reassign the defensive coordinator job.
They're not.
Yeah, you're right, though, Paul. I mean, I'm sure that would be the first offer for many USC fans out there. But, I just find the whole Riley timing of all this very weird. And, hopefully that's just coincidental. As much as I do think that his program is soft and his handling of some things has been soft, I don't know if there's a personal issue going on, so hopefully he's okay. Hopefully his family's okay. It's all very in the dark as to why, he's suddenly unavailable. So I hope that doesn't mean anything bad going on, but still, something's up because otherwise, or he's just sick. I mean, maybe it's what the Baylor staff had over the last month. I have no idea, but that's something to monitor for sure. And Kingsbury obviously would be a logical choice to get back in the college coaching game, head coaching game at some point in time. Is this that leapfrog for him ultimately to get back and firmly in the mix as an active guy at USC or elsewhere eventually? I don't know, but good to have a guy like that on staff, I guess, that you can promote in a situation like this. And, we'll see how it goes for them because they have a bunch of big games still upcoming. And obviously out of last weekend's result, it's been a lot of wondering and hissing and, just a lot of question marks about USC and the direction they're going now with a couple of losses that was not supposed to be the way this season went. And here we are, and now there's this weird Lincoln Riley aspect to the story. So, this final month will be interesting to follow that program.
In the category of be careful that whatever you see on Twitter is true. There was a picture posted of Lincoln Riley at O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, and it was with what someone said was a member of the McCaskey family who owns the Bears. That picture was from 2018. So be careful about what you jump into when it comes to, and I admit there's a couple of the, the fake accounts, especially Ian Rappaport on NFL. I always get caught up on that one a couple of different times, but be careful what you think is true. All right. It's 3:34. We will today bounce around and, in fact, discuss KU in Oklahoma. It's still a good story about what Kansas has done, Lance Leipold, when it comes to Jayhawks football. Oklahoma coming to town. We will hear from John Kirby. He was at the football media session today. He's next from jayhawkslant.com. This is 365 Sports. I did get the information from Brian Bauer, Waco Custom Marketplace. Their holiday items, which Thanksgiving around the corner, and then, of course, Christmas and New Year's. Half spiral hams, pit hams, bone-in hams, whole raw turkeys, whole smoked turkeys, and mini pit hams are going to be available at their store. All items. There are some there now, but all the items will be in stock starting on November the 8th. So a little bit longer to go, but that's coming. And they got great prices on all of that. If you want to get a ham, turkey, all of the above, you can do that. You could also look at the possibility of a tenderloin, pork or beef tenderloin. And if you want even, which is always pretty good during the holiday season or anytime, honestly, is prime rib. because they can cut one up for you and have it available. It's a full-service butcher shop with pork, poultry, beef, and seafood. The bakery with fresh-baked kolaches and bread every day, among a lot of other great sweets. And, yes, cold beer and wine if you want. It's a tailgate place for you, too, with all of what I've mentioned. Plus, they have pellet fuel and charcoal. It's Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoke barbecue.
Next in line.
During Jeep Adventure Days, save big on 2023 Jeep models like the Grand Cherokee Limited with values up to $5,500. Or 10% off MSRP on new Jeep Gladiators on all trim levels. Or 10% off MSRP on a new Jeep Compass at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs, too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
John Kirby covers KU, JayhawkSlant.com. He'll join us momentarily. Craig's got a little bit of updated news involving, of course, the Pac-12 2 or not with Oregon State and Washington State.
Yeah, I mean, I just got this, so I don't know if we might have to revisit it because I think we just got our guess, and it's not going to be a 10-second
All right, let's do that.
So.
John Kirby, JayhawkSlant.com, joins us. He was at the KU media availability today on his way back, battled thunderstorms. Glad you're okay, John. I hope you eventually got home safely. It sounds like you did. So what is the tone this week? This is not unexpected for KU to be a part of a big game because of last year and this year. What is the mood of the tone in Lawrence, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it's positive. They're 5-2. They're another win away from going to a bowl game, which, guys, some people just don't believe this statistic. Kansas has only been to back-to-back bowl games one time in the history of their program, okay? So if they get another win, that will be the second time that they've been bowl eligible in back-to-back years. So, I look at it as they're still ahead of schedule. I mean, they're 5-2. When you look back at their schedule and you saw who they're playing, 5-2, most Kansas fans would have taken it. I just think things are upbeat. I think coming off of a bye week, Lance Leipold used the word refreshed. And, talking to the coordinators today, I think it's given them an extra week, start implementing some plans early. So I took everything as everything's pretty upbeat.
John, they don't have Jalen Daniels, and who knows when they will. But what has been Jason Bean's biggest growth over these few weeks where it was 50-50 last year if he was in the game that they were going to win. And now it appears that they've at least figured out how to navigate the non-Jalen Daniels offense.
Yeah, they got good practice in it last year. A lot of people forget the big game last year was TCU at home. ESPN Game Day brought their crew there. It was a top 25 matchup. And Jalen Daniels got hurt at the very end of the first half. And KU had 3 points. Okay, the offense was struggling. Jason Bean comes in the second half. He throws for 250 yards, 4 touchdowns, and it's a great game. It goes down to the wire. And then the next week, Jason Bean goes to Norman, and the offense puts up 42 points. They look real good. So he's been in this offense. It might change a little bit what they do schematically, but they figured out what they're doing with him. I mean, listen, guys, last week in Stillwater in their last game, Jason Bean throws for 410 yards and 5 touchdowns. So, Leipold said in his press conference that he's had some national guys reach out to him and say that they think Bean's the best backup in the country. So, it's a pretty nice luxury to have him back.
Yeah, he's super experienced. I mean, having that time at North Texas as well prior to KU, I think, has really benefited. And all the snaps he's got in Lawrence alone. I mean, yeah, he's got to be, if not the best, he's arguably the best and certainly one of the most experienced backup quarterbacks, I think, at this point in the country. But, John, just what is the feeling around the absence of Jalen Daniels? Obviously, it's disappointing you don't have your star quarterback, especially in a year where you're set up to have this guy, lead you to the promised land. But obviously, there's no answers right now as to a return. But just what is sort of the feel about the fact that he's been unavailable for the most part this year?
It started, guys. I think the feel started in fall camp, okay? He missed the last couple weeks, a key stretch of fall camp. And that's where Bean took over as the reps. And then the backup to Bean is a kid named Cole Ballard, who is a preferred walk-on. His dad's the general manager of the Indianapolis Colts. So he came in June and quickly moved ahead of some other guys. So those are your first and second guys right now. So I think there would be some real nervousness, not to say Ballard can't get it done, but if Jason Bean were to get hurt and you've got to go with the kid, who just showed up on campus in June, who was a preferred walk-on. But I think the fans and the people around the program have kind of gotten used to it, like I was just referring to, because they've seen this story before, okay? I mean, Jalen Daniels is a freshman, got dinged up, and then last year he got hurt, and then this year he's missed time, and, it's just been an unfortunate thing, and, I think it's his lower back, what they've told us, or somewhere in the back, so, hopefully he can get healthy, and Lance said he's starting to do some more things, and he's progressing.
John, what do you think is the thing they can do against Oklahoma that Oklahoma's going to have trouble stopping?
I think they can run the football. And I know Oklahoma's pretty good against the run, but Kansas runs the football well. Now, against Oklahoma State, they just flat out said, Kansas, you're not going to run the ball. And they stacked the box with everybody they could, and they did shut down the run game. But Bean still threw for 400 yards. So I think Kansas can run the football. Guys, it's one of the hot topics right now is this weather that keeps changing. And now the latest forecast, they're saying 46 degrees for a high on Saturday with some winds and possible 60% chance of rain now. So, that could be a big factor. But I think Kansas can run the football, and Kansas has got to take care of in space defensively. That's where Oklahoma State got them. Those little passes out in the flat where the wide receivers take a 2-yard pass and turn it into a 14-yard gain. Kansas has got to play better in space. But I watched Central Florida last week, and Central Florida's defensive front, when they're healthy, they're pretty good. And they got a bye week to get healthy, and then they got a couple guys back on defense. And I thought they played really well against Oklahoma. So, Kansas is going to look at that film, what Central Florida did, and maybe try to mimic that a little bit. But, I think we're trending toward a sellout crowd. You got the Fox Game Day studios coming. I really think the Jayhawks are going to be ready to play in this one.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that it would probably end up being a sellout, because I saw a note or two from some radio guys in Kansas City that perhaps there was a concern. But I can't imagine, especially with Oklahoma, they're going to bring their contingent too. What a great set. And just to think about, John, so many games that the stands were empty and what they've been able to get to now the last couple of years.
Well, I think that's, the attendance is such a hot topic. It's every week. It's on our message boards, wherever you go. Is this game going to sell out? What's the crowd going to be like? Guys, you got to look back at this, okay? And I see both sides of the story here. Everybody says, well, hey, they're turning it around. The fans need to be there and support it, and they do. But also, they went 14 years of never winning more than 3 games in the season.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So, you lose a lot of fans. I don't care whether you call them fair weather fans or not, or what the term is. When you go that long without having any success, you lose your fan base. Most anybody would. Even a great program. Sure, there's going to be people in the seats, but there may not be as many. So I really think the fans have supported. There were several sellouts last year. I think this game will sell out. I still think you got a couple more that will sell out. And if you look back at this, you're probably going to have 7 or 8 sellouts in 2 years, which at Kansas is not bad at all considering the recent history.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, it takes more than a couple years to erase 14 years, right? It takes a little bit of time to ramp everybody's beliefs back up, but Lance Leipold certainly seems to be doing that job at a very high level right now. What jumps off the page to you about Oklahoma? They've got a fun offense, especially when it's clicking, great quarterback. The defense really is the story, though. What, from a Kansas point of view, do you think is the biggest concern or wonder about how this game might play out on Saturday?
Well, offensively, they do worry you, because Kansas has had trouble in space, and that's one thing Oklahoma will do. They get that they're up there snapping that ball every 15 seconds, and they're running to the line, and they start getting you winded, and they start getting the ball out quick, and they let their skilled players do some things in space. Watching Oklahoma, they've always had some of those big nasty linemen. Just watching them here lately, don't know if maybe the inside guys are quite as physical and will maul you like they did. I don't know if their running game's as good. But, when you look back at Texas, Gabriel led the team in rushing. He ran for over 100 yards. So, again, those are things that worry me about the Jayhawks, because they've improved defensively. They're more physical. But I still don't know if they're a whole lot more athletic than they were last year. So, playing in space is a concern. And then when they're on offense, they've got to run the football. That is really what they can do. Bean can get a little bit of option going in Andy Kotelnicki's system. They've got 2 really good running backs. Neal and Highshaw may be the best 1-2 punch in the Big 12. A little bit different styles, but they get the job done. Highshaw's a physical runner. So if Kansas can get that going, and you get a little bit of cold weather coming in there, and they start milking that clock, I think it's going to be a good one.
John, do you have any worries as Lance Leipold, Michigan State, or a job that might open up that would come and get him, or do you think that he is kind of like Matt Campbell at Iowa State right now, where things are kind of going his way, and to upset the apple cart for him professionally might not be the right time to do that?
Well, guys, there's a few things in play here with that. Okay, money talks, right? So if let's say Michigan State really wanted to go after Lance Leipold, I don't know that there's a lot Kansas can do financially. Okay, Michigan State can go pay their guy $9 million, and I don't know that Kansas can do that. So if it becomes a financial thing, there are some battles Kansas won't win. But you got to look, there's stadium renovations going on. There are going to be hundreds of millions worth of dollars that's going on right now. They're going to break ground in 6 weeks on this new football stadium. It's going to be like they're calling it the Gateway District. Okay. And it's very nice. We've seen all the drawings. We were there at the press conference when they announced it back in August. Lance Leipold, he's got his fingerprints on that. They just redid the locker room. They just redid the weight room. They're going to be redoing the football complex. Lance Leipold has a chance to make, I don't want to say he has a chance. This is his program. Okay. He calls the shots. He runs his program. He oversees it. And I don't mean it like nobody messes with him, but nobody messes with him. All right. I mean, I don't know how many places he can go where he is the boss and he has control of what he does. He's building something here. I know his son, Landon, is a junior. I've heard he likes it in Lawrence. He's a starter on the football team there in Lawrence, a really good program. I've heard the family likes it there. So, right now I would feel good if a Michigan State came calling. I feel strong that, Lance would definitely stay in Lawrence right now. That's my feelings. Wisconsin and Nebraska came open last year, and, he signed a new 7-year deal, $5 million with KU last year. I mean, $5 million is almost double what they've ever paid any football coach in the history of their program.
The way that this program has, I guess, been built by him, and there's still, as you mentioned, construction to do. There's always construction. How many years do you think they are ahead of the curve if Lance Leipold was being honest?
Oh, from when he took over?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, they're ahead of the curve for sure. And again, we base that curve, guys, on Kansas history, which isn't great. Okay, I mean, Glenn Mason and Mark Mangino, in my lifetime of covering Kansas football and being around it and following it since my days I was in middle school, those are the only two coaches that have ever won at Kansas. Now, you can put Leipold in that category now, too. So when you say ahead of the curve, I'd say he's definitely ahead of the curve. I mean, he's about ready to, if he can get the 6 wins, he's about ready to do what only one other coach in the history of the school has done, and that's go to back-to-back bowl games. So I definitely think they're out in front. And, he does such a great job. They're so structured. They're organized. If you saw just the way the program is run, even from their inside people, the administration, it's pretty impressive. It reminds me a lot of how Mark Mangino ran his program and how organized and how disciplined and structured everything was then.
John, appreciate it. There's still KU basketball, and we know what that means. What is the juggling act right now, and how much fun will that be to have this football team for the second consecutive year locked in, and yet we also know it runs that campus in Lawrence?
Yeah, it's a great time. I mean, if you're a Kansas fan, I mean, gosh, that's several months of good sports running together. I mean, they haven't seen that in such a long time. Back in 2007, they went to the Orange Bowl that year and beat Virginia Tech, and in the same year they won the national championship in basketball. So, they've seen good times, but what Lance is doing right now with that football program and with what Bill Self has done and built with the basketball program, you got two guys that are going in the right direction.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Glad you were safe on your trip back to get the Lawrence, back to Kansas City. John Kirby with JayhawkSlant.com. He is so right about when a team starts to win and everyone's like, my God, man, you're talking about having to almost redevelop or completely renovate a fan base's not only the butts in the seats, but the mentality of don't fool us or we don't know if we believe you yet.
Well, it's kind of like, okay, say you have somebody who's habitually late to work, but they're a good employee, right? When they do work, they get there, but you have to lay the law down of, hey, you cannot be late anymore. Well, for a little while, even though they might be on time and doing it right, you're still going to think like, man, they were late a lot before. And so it's going to be a long time before they prove to you that they're not going to be late again. That's probably how a lot of Kansas fans feel because they're like, okay, they're enjoying it now, but they've got to get to the point where they trust them where the other shoe's not going to drop and they're not going to fall back into the abyss.
Yeah, I mean, it is a basketball school still. I mean, it always will be. They will always have the preference of fans out there. And, there's never-ending buy-in there that's been established goodwill over decades of play now at this point. And, yeah, now you've got a couple of years of good football. They didn't just follow bad football. It followed the worst football in the entire country. It followed scandalous football. It followed just bottom of the absolute bottom rung brand of football there for a little while. So it's not like you're just, oh, well, they didn't win much. It wasn't just that. It was they didn't win much and they were awful. I mean, lowest of the low in terms of competitiveness and just the way a program should operate. And, now Lance Leipold had to come in and basically put out fires left and right and rebuild that thing from ashes. And he's doing a good job with that. But it is and will always be basketball-minded. Mm-hmm. And it's going to take, more than a couple of years to suddenly just jam-pack the stands. But at the same time, you point out a tweet, which, when's Twitter not complaining about something? But all due respect to the people, I can't believe it's not a sellout. But it was also, Monday, Tuesday when they posted that? And here we are, and he's saying they're going to be well on their way to a sellout. So, let the week go by. But I know that's been probably a concern at various other points as well. But, I didn't fret too much about Oklahoma being sold out. Now, will it be 60% Crimson? That's the question mark. But that's going to take some time, and that's just too, I talked about this with I hate to always compare it to Baylor, but that's what we base it off of is they're going to have to convince their fans to show up to games. They won a Big 12 title 2 years ago. They're so bad at home that people are tired of fool me once, fool me twice. Eventually, I'm just going to stop coming to home games so you prove you can win a freaking home game because they haven't done it in so long. And so I'm sure there's, maybe some element of that with the fan base as well. But good to hear that they'll have a good crowd. Hopefully it's mostly Jayhawks fans because Oklahoma fans do travel in bunches, but a great opportunity for them, regardless of who's in the stands, to knock off a top 10 team and ruin their season and ruin their potential dream scenario leaving the Big 12. And there's only so many more of those opportunities for these remaining Big 12 schools to do that to Oklahoma and Texas. And they got really close last week, but we got a handful of games now for both. For somebody to try and knock them off their perch, that's not each other. Or, potentially knock them, in Texas' case, with another loss or two, knock them off the perch entirely and out of the Big 12 title game. So, they've got a grand opportunity. I do think Oklahoma's going to be a lot sharper coming off of that little wake-up call against UCF, but with the 2 weeks to prepare, that's always dangerous, especially with a great coach like Leipold. So, it's unfortunate, though, that this isn't the full meal deal with Jalen Daniels because that did have the makings of something, potentially special. But Jason Beans, again, as we mentioned at the very beginning, is as experienced and as good of a backup quarterback as you could really have in the country right now, given the landscape. So in him they trust, and he had a big performance the last time. It wasn't enough against Oak State, but maybe it'll be enough against the other team in the Sooner State.
Man, I tell you what, if you give him some open space, he's gone. He's big and physical. You look around at the running quarterbacks. Gabriel, of course, has the ability to extend the play. Jalen Daniels would have been perhaps the ultimate. And Garrett Green at West Virginia has the ability to take off. Ewers was doing that. Of course, he's going to be out for a while, but he finally, kind of got involved in that, and it surprised some people because there were so many weapons to cover.
Who you talking about, Jalen Daniels?
Yeah.
Yeah, his running ability, makes a big difference because Jason Bean's not, a great runner. He's not something that is like his bread and butter.
No, what I'm saying is if you give him enough space, he's big enough
he can,
and has enough speed. And then, of course, there's the Avery Johnson factor at K-State, too.
Yeah, that's a totally different world, though. That's a dude who is a tremendous runner. That's his go-to right now. Jason Bean, he just threw for 400 yards. So, he can run, but – not compared to Jalen Daniels and the type of offense they would have had with him at the helm. Still can open it up, still, play exciting brand of football. But, there's a dimension that just Daniels a little bit better in that regard that made them probably a little bit more dangerous. But, Bean can hurt you in multiple ways. But he had a pretty big performance there against that Cowboys defense.
Yeah, and you wonder about when Jalen Daniels was playing a little bit because of the injury, if he didn't, because they both have carried the ball same amount with Daniels out. And actually Bean has averaged a little bit more yards per carry, but Daniels probably was also favoring the injury. But we all said this. I think all of us did. 75 yards to go, 2 minutes on the clock, and you might not even have timeouts. You're down 6. You need who do you want as a quarterback to take you down? Now, Dylan Gabriel did that against Texas. But I think most of our answers would, if you could pick one, it would be Jalen Daniels.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. I asked Garrett this yesterday. Garrett, if you took Jalen Daniels right now and put him on Alabama right now, would people be talking about Alabama's struggles as much as they are?
No, they would say they're probably contending for a natty or being up there.
Yeah, I mean he's that kind of difference maker, but he can't stay healthy. He's unique, and I don't think he's Caleb Williams unique, but the dude just plays. I mean, he's got this knack for things. I would love to have him on my squad if I were anybody in the country, and it's a super bummer that he's been fighting through these injuries.
When we come back, Ricky Thompson, Baylor radio sideline reporter and analyst. Also today, we'll hear from former Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby, Gabe Ikard, Oklahoma, and now with SiriusXM and has been with his own show in the afternoon inside the Big 12 or Big 12 Today. He will join us then, and this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick, GMC, Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on right now. Highway 6 is a mess out in front of the dealership, so they want to make it easier for you to get on over there and find yourself a great deal, since it's a little bit harder to maneuver over in that area right now. And that means qualified buyers saving over $7,000 on new 2023 GMC Sierra 1500s. And qualified buyers also have the ability to finance for 0.9%, as they've got dozens of Sierras on the lot, and the inventory, the pricing, the financing, all in a row right now for you to set up and knock off the tee over at Richard Carr with those GMC Sierras in particular. And military and first responders can save an additional $500. You can also save an additional $500 if you're military or first responder, or just get a great deal in general on the Buicks. A perfect combination of first-class luxury and value like no other SUV on the market right now. It's ranked the #1 overall brand for new vehicle quality by J.D. Power's Buick, and it offers amazing value right now. Save $5,000 on 2023 full-size Buick Enclaves, or $4,000 on 2023 midsize Buick Envisions. They also have their award-winning service department standing by to keep you on the road. You can give them a call, visit the website, or go see them in person. And right now, they cannot be beat on tires, offering a price match guarantee on the lowest price comparable tires in town. So if you're in the need of some new rubber on your vehicle, well, get your car over to Richard Carr right now and check out those great deals. For 24 years in Central Texas, they've been the people that you can count on. Built a reputation over that time as the place to go to for your automotive needs, run by proud Central Texans and proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This segment with former Baylor wide receiver and Baylor's sideline analyst Ricky Thompson is sponsored by Alliance Bank Central Texas, where customers have confidence that their financial needs are in good hands with 2 locations in Waco, on Bosque Boulevard and on Archway Drive off Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com.
Ricky Thompson, former Baylor receiver, Baylor sideline reporter with us. Iowa State on Saturday at 2:30, and homecoming. Ricky, thanks for your time. So we had JJ on Monday. Your thoughts about what they did with the passing game, the short passing game becoming the running game?
Well, I guess it was no surprise. They pretty much told us what they were going to do without telling us what they were going to do. And he was talking about run the ball by throwing it, and I think that's what they did. And JJ and I were talking, I don't know, 9-10 minutes to go in the second quarter before running back got a carry. I don't think any of us would have expected that. It was pretty effective, I thought. And I don't know, guys, I thought Cincinnati's front was really good. I thought their outside guys at corner were maybe a little suspect, but their defensive front was really good, right up there with any that we played this year. So I think it was the right decision. I think they opened it up. I liked the passing scheme that they used. I thought it was different than what we've seen before and pretty effective. It just, man, it's really hard to change like that mid-season, but I thought from that perspective they did a good job of it.
Ricky, how much do you take will stick with this offense and how much of it maybe is now kind of a week-to-week game plan of what they do?
I don't really know. If I'm guessing, it's week to week. I think it depends on who they're playing, how they play the run, how good they are at it. I think they still want to run the ball, and I think any offense, even the spread, wants to run the ball. I think you need to be real successful. So I think they'll continue to try that. I think this, if nothing else, it's given Iowa State something that they've got to be aware of. They've got to work on it this week. They've got to spend time on it. And right now, they don't know what we're going to do. And that's an advantage. I don't know what we're going to do. But I liked it. I thought Blake played very well again. I thought he had receivers making plays. Keytron finally goes downfield, makes some catches, very contested type catches. And that just really creates confidence for a quarterback that he can just let the ball go. And you don't always have to be open. Just if you've got your guy and he's down there, sometimes the quarterback just needs to throw it. And I think that's something Keytron really gave him some confidence in. And Josh Cameron, again, big-bodied guy that had a couple routes across the middle where he's running wide open. Blake did a good job of catching him. I did think Blake missed a couple of pretty easy throws where he would have had even more. What was it, 316 or something like that? He could have had 350. But he'll get those, and not bad to not be at your best and still throw for over 300.
Yeah, and one or two of those, he might have had, Keytron might have found the end zone. He might have had like 180, in that game if Blake can connect on one or two more throws in the middle of the field in particular. But, Ricky, just what was kind of the scene like down there amidst a win like that for a team that has obviously been so starved to get one, just sort of the emotions being there in the midst of everything. What did you sense from their confidence level, just their belief and how they fought in a closely contested game like that?
Well, you know what? I thought it wasn't so much vocal before the game, but I thought they came out, played really hard right from the start. And I think a couple of games maybe they didn't play as well or as hard as they could early. And that was the big difference to me. I just thought that they were in the game early, physically and mentally, played hard early, made some plays, got up 3-0, then came right back and scored to go back up again when Cincinnati went ahead 7-3. And then, of course, the fumble kickoff that made it 17-7, just like that. But I thought they handled the crowd well. I thought they played well on the road. I think I mentioned to you guys last week that sometimes it's good to get on the road. You get in the hotel and you're in a different environment, and sometimes I really think there's a little less pressure when you're playing on the road. And I thought they performed well. It was a happy group of dudes after the game, I'll tell you that.
Ricky, do you see them as more relaxed and you got to be locked in too on the road? Do you see that from them, or is that getting a little bit like too picky?
No, not really. I think maybe that would be a reasonable description. They really only had 2 road games, and I think we've seen, although not the best teams they're going to play, that they've been pretty respectable on the road. Didn't have a great start at UCF, but played as good a fourth quarter as you'll ever see. And then I thought Saturday, although it ended up pretty tight, I had a good feeling that they were going to win that game, even late when it started getting tight. So, yeah, I think sometimes you just see teams that are better on the road, and this may be one of them. But this Saturday, we went back to last week and said that coaches don't like must-wins. I think that was a must-win, and they got it. And this one's pretty close, too. But I know last week they don't win. You go 2-5, a bowl game most likely out. So I think that game put them in a good position. You beat Iowa State this weekend. You're 4-4, 3-2 in the league. Pretty good shot at that bowl at that point. So this is a big one Saturday at 2:30.
Ricky, this is a very physical Iowa State team that has not been Baylor's calling card this year, although that is very much who they want to play. It is the DNA of Dave Aranda's philosophy. How much of a measuring stick on how much they might have improved that over the bye week and the Cincinnati prep week will this be?
That's an unknown, but I think it's a good question, and that's what Iowa State always is. They're a tough, physical team. That's the way they always play. In the past, we've handled that really well. This year, not so much thus far, but we'll see how that goes. It's at home, which should be an advantage. We just talked about the road and the way this team has played on the road, but I think speed-wise, we've still got some positions we can take advantage of. We're going to have to stop them from running the football, and we haven't stopped anybody yet. But I think that that will be a point of concentration, and you can't get out physical. Now, Paul, I think once you start beating the other guys up, it kind of goes downhill from there. I think the further you get into a game, the worse that gets. So you can't come out and let them just beat us up early. I think you're going to have to do some things that take that away, whether that's outside to the receivers early like we did last week, going deep downfield, and got to do something to try to slow the run down. I tell you, our outside guys, these freshmen and Chateau Reed on top of that, these corners are playing really good football. I'm telling you, they're really good, and I think they've got a chance before those guys are out here to be outstanding. But the key to this game, again, it's going to be up front defensively, trying to stop Iowa State from running the ball, and for us somehow to be physical up front on the offensive side as well.
Did you sense any extra physicality with the offensive line changes this week? The mean streak that Dave Aranda talked about with Colton Price, getting him to the lineup and then freeing up Clark Barrington to some extent. Was there anything noticeable from your point of view on those changes?
Well, I didn't hear anybody scream because somebody twisted their arm or bit them when they were on the ground.
Fair enough.
Now, we had some guys that when I played that might do that, but in all seriousness, I thought there was improvement there. We didn't see any that I'm aware of. I don't think we had any procedure penalties during the game at all. I thought that once Excuse me?
I said, geez, that's a compliment right there. Yeah.
Yeah. When I remember some games when we had 5. So that's an improvement. I thought when we finally handed it off and ran the football that we did get some push, had some pretty decent runs. I think it would have been a real test just to see how good they were if they would have tried to pound it early, which obviously they weren't going to do. But we'll know more this week. But just the fact that I thought Blake had pretty good protection. I don't think it was a situation where he's running for his life most of the day that we've seen some. I thought that was better. So, I thought there was some improvement there. And hopefully that'll carry forward when those guys – when you've got 5 guys up front like that and you start switching things around, those guys have to learn to play together. It's kind of like quarterback and receiver. They really need to have a feel for what the guy next to them is going to do. And I think a full game of playing together like that will help some there.
Paul last week, and really for many weeks, not only Paul but Craig, and I brought it up as far as the offensive line of just look like they're cohesive and also have a little bit of anger, and Dave Aranda mentioned that. Craig has been barking, and honestly for a good reason, about the receivers not making 50-50 catches. You mentioned that with Keytrod. Man, just imagine if they would have done that about 2 or 3 times in a couple of the other losses.
Well, they wouldn't have been losses, would they? It would have been completely different ball games. Go back to Utah. 1 or 2 of those catches downfield against Utah and to help Sawyer out, because if you'll remember, we pumped it deep 2 or 3 times in that game. Somebody makes a play on those balls and you're up 13-6 late. You might be up 16-6 or you may be up 20-6. And it's a big difference. And again, even when Sawyer was in, what kind of confidence would that have added to him just to know if I throw it up, it's 50-50. There's 75% chance it's my guy that's going to get it. So that makes a huge difference. And you need it more than one game, but that's a huge step. And I agree. You're sitting here, 3-4 now? Could very well be 5-2, 4-3 at worst case. So, yeah, that would have made a difference.
At least it would give you a little room to breathe. But now you really, over these next couple of weeks with Iowa State, who will be a tough out, and then, of course, Houston that has the explosive ability with what they do, and we saw that a little bit against Texas. It ought to be interesting for what they can do. Ricky, thank you very much. We'll see you Saturday. Iowa State Baylor at McLean Stadium. Ricky Thompson with us every Wednesday in the 4 o'clock hour on 365 Sports. We haven't really said much about it because we get straight into the week and look at the big pictures we can. But the Keytron Jackson catch, one of them was like with his body in the air, coming down with it, not only making the catch, but when the ball and his body hits the ground, it didn't like get dislodged. That's what I thought you would see more often from him throughout the year.
He made a catch like that against Texas State early, and I thought, oh, okay, like he's going to go up and get some balls. And then after that, it was he just wasn't there for weeks and weeks. Craig talked about it a lot. Like, you got to go up and get the ball, and then that was the first time that, the third of him in the game, and he went up and did it, and he did it a couple more times. Now he has to do it against Iowa State. Iowa State has a cornerback named TJ Tampa that, if you don't know about him, the dude is legit. Like, he's not going to let you go up and win many 50-50 balls. So if you can do it against a guy like TJ Tampa and that physical defense, keep doing it. But yeah, Keytron, that was a positive sign, especially given that they're down some wide receivers, some of them for the season now.
Yeah, I mean, they won't have Hal Presley. That'll be impactful, but not to an extreme degree. I just be bluntly honest about it. They don't have a receiver that if they lost, like, it's game over for them because their passing game hasn't been impressive enough to be that way. They just don't have that kind of a star. But Keytron Jackson is a guy they thought could fill a role like that or blossom into a role like that. And maybe last week was a start. You just wish it would have started sooner, but because he was – having some balls taken away or batted away, that, if he gets a little bit stronger or has more of a mean streak to him, maybe, they do beat Utah, for example. So to see him go and make a tough catch early on last week, I feel like it set a tone right away of like, oh, wow, okay, well, he's making that catch, then shoot, let's go back to him. Or, hey, let's throw it some more. And it gave them some building blocks early in the game to sort of get that juice from and operate with, and so that was huge for them. Now, do want to transition from that into more wide receiver news, and on the recruiting trail, that Texas, who I know is not everyone's favorite necessarily, but we do have some Longhorn fans, and obviously recruiting is a very interesting topic as always, but apparently the Longhorns just reeled in 5-star wide receiver Ryan Wingo over his in-state school of Missouri. So you thought Missouri, man, home state, bring it, keep the guys in the fold there in state, hey, look at Luther Burden and, this and that, but Texas with a huge recruiting win. I don't know if this was expected anytime soon. I haven't kept close tabs on his recruitment.
You can see that flipping a little bit.
But regardless, he's committed now. So a big 5-star wide receiver commit for Texas in Ryan Wingo. So there you go with that.
All right. They I think the Mizzou fans kind of thought like this is going to be a corner turner. If they can get
like
Ryan
Luther
Wingo.
Burden?
Yeah, like they can get him. But man, I mean, anytime Texas, and this is throughout like the good and the bad of their history, if they're in on one of the guys that you've signed, you're just sitting there waiting going, crap.
Yeah, it's like they're inviting they've got one of Baylor's top commits on a visit now that's set up, and I remember Grayson, I asked him about Texas offering and how much of a threat that was, knowing full well the answer to that. I don't really need him to answer that for me, honestly. I've followed recruiting for 20 years, so I know that them offering's a threat, but he's like, well, so long as he doesn't go on a visit. Well, he's going on a visit. So, and it's their defensive lineman whose name escapes me, Alex. Does anybody know? Okay, no. I forget his name off the top of my head. But, yeah, that'll be interesting to track. And, yeah, they're always going to be that school that you're flattered if they offer a guy that you have, but it also makes you fear for being able to hold on to him unless you're Oklahoma, Michigan, Ohio, the teams that are like eye to eye with them, which there's probably 10 or 12 of those schools, give or take. But that, certainly not most of the schools remaining in the Big 12 and not Baylor. They've won their battles, but like Missouri just found out, they're capable of swinging the big stick in recruiting. So
Alex
a big 5-star
you're talking about.
Alex Foster, that's who I was
defensive end out
of
of Greenville, Mississippi.
Yeah. Meanwhile, got time to touch this pack topic, or what do you
we do. Yeah, we do, because
right.
we have Bob Bowlsby coming up in 8 minutes here on 365 Sports.
So basically, they're still wading through the marsh on all of this legal battle with the Pac-12. You've got the two schools that are still, basically the Pac-2 in Oregon State and Washington State, and then you've got the 10 others that are on their way out, and there's this big fight over who's going to control the assets, who's going to control the voting power for the conference moving forward. Oregon State and Washington State's argument is that, hey, y'all all left. Y'all basically surrendered your rights to be a part of the board any longer, and that there was precedent set when UCLA and USC left, and they were no longer voting members of the Pac-12 board moving forward. The other schools would argue that that's not. We never proclaimed, officially or withdrew our voting. Like they're arguing that they should still have voting power, right? And the idea is that they got 10 schools that are all leaving. Why would, if they had voting power, not just vote to dissolve everything and it's nice and clean and wash their hands and move on and sorry, see you later, smack on the butt to Oregon State, Washington State, have a good life. Obviously, that would be a death knell for Oregon State and Washington State to just have the pack dissolve and not get anything from it. So they're fighting it because they see on the other end of the rainbow, if it does fall their way, millions upon millions of dollars that could potentially be theirs, the Pac-12 network and, all the bells and whistles that come with that. I still have a question about the network. I get you'd have studios, but I don't see how... I guess you'd sell that off because...
You don't have carriage.
You don't have carriage, yeah. So, nobody has to air that network, and you can't just it's the Big 12 network now. That's not exactly how it would work. So that part of it's a question, but it would be assets that you could sell off and make money, I guess, or whatever other options that you may have. Regardless, that can be decided at a later date.
Nobody of the 10 teams that left, neither conference that they went into or none of the three, said, hey, can we take those off your hands?
Yeah, I mean, to our knowledge, they don't need to because they're going to be in conferences that have those. But, as far as what you'd get for that, that's still, I guess, a part of the equation. So they want all of those assets. And this is part of what the legal battle has been over is whether that's legit or not and whether that all belongs to those two now or if it belongs to everybody and they can go split it however they see fit. So the next step in all this is they're still going through this entire process. But Oregon State and Washington State filed a motion for preliminary injunction against the 10 outgoing schools. It was filed this morning in Whitman County, Washington Superior Court, and it is an order, according to Yahoo, stipulating that they be the only voting members of the Pac-12 Board of Directors until a final judgment is rendered in the case. They had dozens of pages of documents through discovery to support their claim that did show that USC and UCLA lost their voting privileges as soon as they announced that they were going. So precedent was therefore set, is what you could argue. And in that case, if precedent was set there, then those 10 schools have vetoed their own voting rights, right, by declaring that they are leaving. And that's at the heart of this conversation, and therefore would not be in control of all of these goods that we're talking about here. So they said in their motion that they are fearful of those 10 dissolving and outvoting them for all of these, millions of dollars and the assets that they have at their disposal. So this is basically cutting that off. And for now, it did go in and show some more of just kind of how the last days unfolded. And some of that we already knew. And some of that was already, I think, in a previous Ross Dellinger article, like the final days and all of that. But it delves into that somewhat in here. But, yeah, so they filed this motion, and now the court case will continue to go on. But there was a text from Kliavkoff as far as setting the precedent goes that when Oregon and Washington and Arizona State and Utah, Colorado, or maybe not Colorado because they were first, but those other 5, when they withdrew back in early August, Kliavkoff had a text message to a reporter that said that the board's now just 4 members. So he acknowledges that when they left, that there's just 4 members. So did he shoot himself in the foot again? Yeah. I can't believe it. No way. But yeah, so that is in favor, you would think, or that goes in favor of the case for Washington State and Oregon State. So that'll continue on that court case. And without an injunction, the governance, as Ross puts it, the league is still in limbo, and they will continue mediation. And there's a court case set for November 14th. So if no settlement, then there will be a hearing to determine voting rights and then who gets to decide where all of this goes. So that's ongoing, but that was the latest development there from that fight.
Man, I tell you what, it's going to be a hell of a documentary one day from start to finish. And, in fact, part of that documentary would be the George Kliavkoff and Bob Bowlsby having their conversation back in 2021. Bob Bowlsby, former Big 12 commissioner, will join us next on 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com. Dr. Rob Maxey and his staff have done a great job in giving you, the customer, an opportunity to do a couple of different things that matter. Find out what is hurting you so much. That might be your knee, your shoulder, your neck, your back. It could be something. And an MRI will help your doctor find out what it is, get the diagnosis, get the evidence, get the MRI, get the images in a portal that will be sent to you and him, your doctor or she, and then you can then go from there. And on top of that, it's only going to cost you $497 or less every single time. An average MRI is $1,100. At Ideal MRI, it's $497 or less. They have a great machine, a state-of-the-art technology MRI machine, the one that you want to be in. I've been in it 4 times. To figure it out, why is it shutting you down? Why can't you sleep? Why are you so uncomfortable? What is it, a muscle, a ligament, or something else? IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas Marketplace up I-35 in Waco.
The right call can make all the difference on and off the field. I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. When it's time for a new car, truck, or SUV, Bird Colgin Ford is the right call. Come check out our award-winning lineup of best-selling models in their class, like the Mustang, Explorer, Expedition, F-150, and Super Duty. Make the right call for your next vehicle at Bird Colgin Ford. Bird Colgin Ford proudly supports Baylor Athletics. Sic 'em Bears.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak.
The Butcher Shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoke barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We have been fortunate in the past to have what was then Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby on this show many times during the times when things were pretty calm, and then times when things were really pretty interesting, so to speak. And he is nice enough to join us again here on 365 Sports with Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoak. So how have you enjoyed retirement, or are you actually retired?
Yeah, I'm actually retired. I think we'll probably stay in Dallas. We have 2 of our children and, more importantly, 6 of our grandchildren in town. And so we're likely going to be here. And I consulted with the Big 12 for about 6 months, and we talked about extending it. But I kind of thought that it was time to cut the umbilical cord and move on. And so I've done a little bit of whatever I wanted to. I've done a little bit of expert testimony in a court case. I've helped my son with his executive search business and his consulting business. Mm-hmm. And so I'm doing about what I want to, and really I miss the people, but I'm not missing the issues.
How often will Brett Yormark reach out to you or vice versa, and your thoughts about at least what he's done since you stepped away?
Well, we talk fairly regularly. I don't have any formal engagement, and I've tried very intentionally to stay out of the way. But he calls once in a while for a little background information or to bounce things off me. We have dinner together once in a while, and having been through the scramble that is conference realignment, he had to jump right in and hang on, and I think he's done a good job of that. I think he comes from a different background than a lot of people in on campus and in conference offices, but he knows a lot about driving revenue, and I think he's done a good job with that. And innovation, I think, is generally speaking good. So I think the first year and a half has gone just fine.
I know that when the Texas OU bombshell happened, there's no way you foresaw what's probably what's happened now with the Big 12 being at 16 teams and the teams from the Pac going. But as it happened after you added the 4 teams, could you have imagined them getting to the Pac and those 4 teams coming in? Because it didn't seem very likely to happen, at one time.
Well, I think the remarkable thing about the Pac-12 circumstance and their ongoing situation is how rapidly it happened. It was kind of in slow motion for months on end, and then in a period of about 48 hours, it seemed to all of the pieces shifted quickly, and the tectonic plates kind of erupted, and I think that was what was really surprising, is the speed with which it all happened. And it'll be interesting to see how it all works out. These larger alignments are they have their own complexities. You lose a lot of traditional rivalries. You have a real difficulty in scheduling. With the Big Ten having 18, if they play 9 games, they're going to have 9 no plays, and so you end up with an illegitimate championship in a lot of ways. And so it'll be interesting to see how these new alignments work. But I think the 4 that have come to the Big 12 were probably leaving something, and they were going to something. And I think having been in that situation previously, every one of the institutions in the Pac-12 has an obligation to their school to make sure that they have contingency plans if the need should arise. And I think that's what the 4 that ended up at the Big 12, they saw that the infrastructure was falling apart in the Pac-12, and so they decided to take what was the best available opportunity.
Bob, realignment is no newcomer to the college athletic scene. I mean, there's been tons of it over the history of college football, so it's part of the deal and part of the fabric in some ways. But these last couple of years, what do you point to as the driving force and the amount of change that we've seen, and what's the conductor, in your opinion, in all of this?
Well, I think the short answer is money, but there are a lot of byproducts from all this shifting, and it goes back a long ways. I mean, the ACC appropriated some members from the old Big East, and specifically Boston College and Syracuse were prominent members of the Big East, and they moved, and then Maryland decided to leave, and Rutgers left, and that was really about in the case of Rutgers and Maryland, it was really about capturing cable households for the Big Ten network, and the same is true for UCLA and USC. That's all about the Big Ten network being able to capture in-market fees for the Los Angeles area, and it's extraordinarily valuable. But when you distribute it over the entire Big Ten, the impact, it'll be substantial, but it isn't life-changing for any of those institutions. The thing about the realignment that I think first of is that it's just kind of sad. I think that the sports ecosystem is better with Pac-12 in it, and we always had 5 principal conferences that had 2 or 3 that were traditionally at the top of the heap. We had 5 or 6 that were always aspiring and getting there some of the time, and then we had some people in each of the leagues that were more than happy to be everybody's homecoming opponent and cash the checks that they got. And so, there was good competitive balance, there was good regional balance, and I find most of it to be unnecessary, but we'll see how it plays out in the longer term.
With your time at Stanford, and then with also what you just said, if in fact the same circumstances that arose with the Pac-12, with what we saw with USC and UCLA, and eventually what happened, would that have made it more difficult for you to go and acquire teams from the Pac-12 to join the Big 12 if you were commissioner?
Well, that's hard to say. I think each one of those situations is different. You can't paint everybody's circumstance throughout the league with the same brush, because some of them have better options than others. But the fact is that everybody has an institutional obligation to think first and foremost about their own school. And I think when Oregon and Washington were added to the Big Ten, they did what they thought was best for their school, despite the fact that it left two schools in their own states, Oregon State and Washington State, in a dire circumstance, and they still reside there right now. One of the things that's astonishing to me about all of this changing of conferences is that the University of California is the number one rated public university in the United States, and Stanford is the most successful athletic institution, and obviously a high academic in the history of college sports. And for those two universities to be afterthoughts in the changing landscape of college athletics is really a testament to the fact that university presidents and others have gotten steamrolled a little bit by the media partners.
Bob, when you watched the Pac-12 thing unfold, were you a little bit surprised that they didn't take any cues from what you guys went through?
Well, we had conversations right after the OU Texas change was confirmed. We had some conversations with the Pac-12, and at that time, USC and UCLA hadn't departed, and they didn't feel that there were any business relationships that could arrange from a complete merger to some alliances. And at that time, I would say we probably needed them more than they needed us. Fast forward 18 months, and all of a sudden we've stabilized, and the Pac-12 is wobbly. And they, lo and behold, they came back and inquired as to whether or not there was some opportunity for a partnership there. And at that point, we were in pretty good shape and didn't need the partnership as much as we may have 18 months or 2 years prior. So, there are shifting fortunes in all of this, and it's good that we were able to stabilize ourselves, and the Big 12 conference has had a history of some fairly stormy patches, and I think stability was priority one when OU and Texas made the announcement, and I think we were able to get stable, and we were in a situation with even then an uncertain future, and so there were opportunities that presented themselves, and I think Brett did a good job of capitalizing on those opportunities.
Bob, what was your first, when you heard the news about Texas OU? That had to be like a bombshell, a blindside hit, whatever. What was your day like, or night, or evening, or whatever? I don't remember the time. Did you sleep that night?
Yeah, I always sleep, but I sometimes, I say that I sleep like a baby. I wake up every 2 hours and cry, and so I don't lose sleep very often, but I sometimes wake up early and begin worrying. And frankly, that's one of the things I don't miss about in my retirement is I don't wake up with a hot fire in my lap every day. And relative to OU in Texas, we were on our way back from an introductory trip to Kansas to meet Lance Leipold and his staff, and so we. While we were there, and we were, it was Ed Stewart and Tim Weiser and myself. We decided we'd go over and see Coach Self, and so we spent some time in his office. And when we landed on the way back, we found out that the room, it was SEC Media Day, and the rumor was started by the Texas A&M folks that OU and Texas had indeed been exploring and had made the decision to move. And at the same time, we learned that Bill Self had tested positive for COVID that afternoon. So we had all been exposed. So, you know, it was a wonderful couple of hours after we landed back in Dallas trying to figure out what was going on. And it was a day and a half before I was able to get either athletic director or either president to return a telephone call. So, there was some frustration and certainly surprise. There was disappointment because of some of the people that were involved, but all you can do is move on, and people make choices for their own reasons, and we had to go forward and make some choices on our own.
Well, okay, so you mentioned that you don't have to wake up with a fire in your lap, and we hear about college football coaches that you wonder how much longer they'll stay in the game because of NIL and transfer portal and so much that change. Is that, you think, going to also not trickle down, but trickle up to administrators of college athletics?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think anybody's having a whole lot of fun right now. The absence of NCAA rules around NIL, it was a colossal mistake, and you know, even if we had gotten sued again, it would have been better to have a stake in the ground and stated what we stood for rather than leave the institutions with no guidance whatsoever. And so, you know, now we have a bunch of state laws that are all very different, and we are in a situation where clearly NIL is being used for inducements to transfer and to initially enroll, and the legislation that the solutions group that I co-chaired had forwarded included prohibition of using it for inducements to initially enroll or to transfer. So, you know, it's still the wild, wild west out there. And to your question, I don't think administrators are having a lot of fun. I don't think coaches are having a lot of fun. Most people that I know in athletics would like to know what the rules are, and they would like to know that somebody was working every day to make sure everybody was adherent to those rules. And I don't know that that's the case right now. And but having said that, college athletics over a long period of time has had a remarkable ability to find its own equilibrium. And I think, that things have calmed down a bit in the transfer portal. We're starting to get some windows around the seasons and at the end of seasons where the transfers can take place, so that we don't have quite so much of people just walking off the field and deciding to go into the transfer portal. So that's already begun to calm down a little bit. And it's easy to forget that there were only 5 sports that had the transfer residence requirement anyway. All the other sports, you could transfer whenever you wanted to, as many times as you wanted to. We just worked hard to protect the ones where we spent a lot of money in recruiting and where we had a lot of fan interest. So, you know, this isn't an entirely new environment. And relative to NIL, I don't think that you're going to see boosters over and over and over again making large contributions to collectives that are end up going to be passed on to the kids, and they're not getting any donation credit from the universities in that circumstance, because they aren't 501c3 organizations. So I just think that it's likely to evolve. I think the pendulum will swing back towards the middle at some point in time, and whether we get any sort of legislative assistance at the state level or the federal level remains to be seen. But the NCAA is going to have to, the membership is going to have to get engaged in deciding what it wants NIL and the transfer portal to look like. And somebody's going to have to lead on those issues.
Is there something professionally freeing about, because being a conference commissioner is a job that not many people have, and it is something that to do it well you have to make a lot of people not happy, but at least content all at once. And to have to, you said fires in your lap. There's always little things, or this one's mad, this one's mad. Not everybody. If everybody's content, you're doing your job all right. But when Texas No U left, and you had to just go straight ahead, and you didn't have to worry about making Texas No U happy anymore. You just had to be on the side of the 8 teams that were still left. How freeing was that, even though it was difficult to know that at least now I don't have to worry about making them happy?
Well, I think we probably would have added new members in 2016 had it not been for Texas and OU voting against them. And, they were treated like 800-pound gorillas most of the life of the Big 12, including the 10 years I was there. So, they have a national presence, and they've earned it, and so it's no different than the way Michigan and Ohio State are treated in the Big Ten, or at least when I was there at the University of Iowa. USC and UCLA used to receive what was called the Southern California Premium because of the media markets that they resided in. So those people that are the conference bell cows are frequently treated slightly different than the rest of the people. In the case of the Big 12, the Longhorn Network certainly was an issue that required some thoughtful workarounds in order to make it work. And but I think generally speaking, we got along well. I mean, when I interviewed for the job, I told the 3 presidents that I was meeting with that the Big 12 looked to me like rats leaving a sinking ship. And of course, that was right after Missouri and Texas A&M and Colorado and Nebraska had all left in 2 consecutive years. And it took some convincing to get me to leave Stanford and come to the Big 12. But one of the things I had to do was unify the group, and we did that for a period of time. And ultimately, some decided to jump ship, and we went out and did the best we could to bring in high-quality institutions and high-quality athletics programs, and I think Brett has continued to do that.
Bob, to be the commissioner when all of a sudden you lose 2 massive logos like Texas and Oklahoma, I'm sure is something that you weren't thrilled to be a part of. But what is your legacy? Will it be how you reacted to that and how quickly the Big 12 survived, which they've done before, but how quickly that came about with the 4 new schools?
Well, it's not for me to decide what my legacy is. I worked on campus for 30 years. I know how athletic directors think. I know how presidents think. And that prepared me well to try and be at the nexus of all of those institutions. And you realize that everybody's needs are not the same. Everybody is not identically situated. And some have, small towns and small airports, and some have big cities and big airports, and some are easy to recruit to, and some are hard to recruit to. Some have big endowments, and some don't have much of any endowments. As much as we're all part of a conference, the budgets range from $250 million to $80 million. And so when you say, well, we're in the A5 and we're a really homogenous group, well, there's a lot of difference between spending $250 million a year and spending $80 million a year. And you do things differently, and you succeed in different ways. And so, I think that's what you do as a commissioner is you have to communicate directly with individual institutions. And Baylor is a good example. When the university and the community went through the sexual assault allegations and all the things that were derivative to that. I spent a lot of time in Waco, and I spent a lot of time with university leadership and with outside advisors. And none of us signed up for it, but you deal with it. And the same is true OU in Texas. It wasn't something that I ever aspired to, but I was in the chair, and along with a very good committed staff, we worked our way through it. But there's no manual for any of this, and so the years of experience on campus served me well, and I think I generally have a temperament that is not inclined to knee-jerk reactions, and that probably served me well as well. But it's none of us wish for tragedy or surprises or catastrophic things happening, but they do occur, and you have to deal with them.
Bob, do you have time for another question or two? If you mind?
Sure.
The immediate aftermath of what occurred, as you mentioned, during 2016, when we were at Big 12 Media Days, we had you on that week, but one of the other things is that the conference voted to take away some revenue or not give revenue to Baylor. Was that just like going in for the kill, even though there were problems? In the SEC or some other conferences, at least like everyone feels like the weakest link is their strongest link, that they have to make sure they're protected. Was that something that was necessary even back then?
Oh, I don't know that I'd really put it in a financial context. It was, there was a fine involved, and there was a withholding of money involved. Baylor has paid the fine, and the money has been returned, and it was about $12 million, as I recall. I haven't looked at the documents for a while, but when Dr. Livingstone came in, she wasn't coming into any bed of roses, and the same is true with Matt Rule, and those are very difficult times. And Mac Rhodes was a steady hand. He worked through a lot of extraordinarily difficult things that also had no manual attached to it. And I think Baylor University did an excellent job of getting outside consultants and outside legal advice and putting the right people in place and working on the culture that they wanted to have on campus and in the sports programs. And so I think the most telling aspect of that is that all of the funds were returned 18 months before they were scheduled to be returned, because the presidents and chancellors believed that Baylor had done an exceptional job of doing what they said they were going to do, and that is make their culture a state of the art situation. And so, that was just one thing that we all dealt with at the time. But when one member of the conference has difficulty, everybody shares the angst in some ways.
Bob, the final thing, and you mentioned your grandkids and also the family. You go hunting and fishing. That's kind of your getaway. I talked to Bob Berta for a little bit earlier this morning. How much of that is your peace and quiet?
Oh, I don't know. It's I really like easy golf courses, and I like places where I'm not sure I'm a fan of fishing, but I'm a fan of catching, and so and when it comes to bird hunting, I like slow flying birds that are easy to hit, and so I do things that don't frustrate me for my leisure time, and then I really enjoy my young grandkids. I have 10 of them, and they're age 14 down to age 2, and they go 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 6, 8, and then some older ones. And so I am really having the opportunity to do things that you really don't have a chance to do as an athletic director or as a commissioner. I was 100 nights a year in a hotel for 30 years, and I was always very actively involved in the NCAA, I missed a lot of family things. I missed a lot of my kids' athletic events, and never really had a chance to coach my kids because I never could commit to being there every time. And so I really am having some fun doing things that I really was never able to do when I was working. So I guess that's what retirement's supposed to be.
Thank you, Bob. We appreciate your time. Always did when you were running the commissioner's job at the Big 12, and maybe again come back with us again. We appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me on.
Bob Bowlsby, former Big 12 commissioner, with us on 365 Sports, and now just enjoying life after, like he said, he'd wake up. He never lost sleep, but that doesn't mean he always slept through the night. Can you imagine with all of that on your plate? And then multiple times the Big 12 going through some, oh, my God, what's next? And then that one was the mother lode back in July of 2021. We appreciate his time.
Yeah, good to hear from Bob Bowlsby. And I think that, it was a case of history changing, because had he just left on his own terms without anything ever really, changing drastically, he'd probably be remembered one way. But because things did change the way that they did, I think he's remembered in an entirely different way for the better, right?
Yep.
For some Big 12 fans out there, and obviously has a huge role in a big chapter in whatever book's written about that conference moving forward.
Well, I know one thing. He reacted the right way because it got it done. And also, it doesn't mean that all of his decisions were one that every fan base or most of the fan bases liked. We're now joined by Gabe Ikard, former All-American at Oklahoma, Sirius XM Radio, Big 12 Today, and he also has a great podcast, joins us. Gabe, thanks for your time. I know you just wrapped up being on the air yourself. Oklahoma, the win against Texas has been now a few weeks back, and then, of course, they had finally they survived at the end against UCF. What and who are they now, Texas or what we saw against UCF?
They're both, Smokey, and appreciate you boys having me on. But I think the last two games we've seen from the Sooners, it's a perfect example of the margins, right, in college football and with this team, right? If you show up, you play well, you take care of the football, you don't give up good, big chunk plays on defense, you run it efficiently, you throw it efficiently, then Oklahoma's a really talented team that's going to win a lot of games. But in the UCF game, while they were very good on 95% of their plays that they played on defense, they gave up huge, catastrophic plays to UCF's offense. And you had some special teams issues, right? You missed 2 field goals in that game. I would say the biggest issue in the UCF game for OU was a lack of complementary football, meaning the defense started the game red hot, 4 straight 3-and-outs OU forced against that UCF offense. And all they had to show was a 7-0 lead, right? The offense did not capitalize when the defense was playing really, really well. Now, some encouraging things from the UCF game is when the offense had to put drives together, right? When they were down in the fourth quarter, they went and scored touchdowns. And Dylan Gabriel had a huge part in that. The run game got going a little bit. But, yeah, I think Oklahoma is a team that is capable of beating anyone in the country on their best day. And if they don't play well, they're capable of losing to dang near everyone here in the Big 12 Conference. Like, that's just the kind of team that they have this season. But so far, so good for the Sooners. 7-0 feels pretty dang good, Smokey.
Absolutely. I mean, that's as good as it gets, especially with the win against Texas, Paul.
Gabe, were you surprised that they were not able to run as much at will on UCF, especially late in that game, considering UCF's massive struggles stopping the run this year?
Yeah, I was not surprised. I was maybe more disappointed than anything. I was hopeful that OU's issue when it comes to running the football, they have actually run it efficiently. I don't know if you guys are big analytics guys, but there's a metric out there that measures success rate when you're running the football. And OU, according to Bill Conley's SP Plus stats, they've got a 50% success rate running the football, which has them checking in as the 22nd best rushing team in the country, right? Which is good, right? You're a top 25 rushing team in the country. The issue they have, guys, is there are seemingly no explosive runs for Oklahoma. Right? You think about a run game, like you get 3, you get 4, you get 5, you get 40. OU has very few of those chunk runs. And in fact, going back to the analytics thing, while they're 22nd in rushing success rate, they are 119th in the country in rushing marginal explosiveness. Basically, depending on situation, how are you producing explosive runs? It's been an issue. It continues to be an issue for Oklahoma. So they've run it okay. They just haven't produced large, momentum shifting plays with their running game. And they're continuing to search for ways to find that. I think it's been a combination of the offensive line, and also they just have not had dynamic playmaking at the running back position. They've had solid play, but they haven't had anyone that has done a really good job of making free hitters miss, juking a guy, spinning out of things. They have not had a guy emerge and show that he's capable of that. So the running game, it's not awful. Should it have been better against UCF? I absolutely believe it should. But what they need to find is more explosive runs.
Gabe, what were your thoughts on the Knights and just seeing them up close? Obviously, it's been a big transition and a mighty struggle for them so far, and they had possibly this colossal win right there on their fingertips, but alas, they wait for that first Big 12 win. What do you like, what do you not like right now about the state of Gus Malzahn's team?
Well, I'm a fan of Gus Malzahn. Going back in the day, guys, I'm getting old. Gus Malzahn recruited me when he was the offensive coordinator at Tulsa.
Oof.
He called me back in 2008, and Charles Clay, who I ended up being teammates with in Buffalo, actually. He said Charles Clay just caught a ton of balls, throughout his career at Tulsa. He said, if you come to Tulsa, you'll catch more passes than any other tight end in the country. And I said, damn, that sounds pretty good, Coach. Yeah. He left for Auburn and took the OC job like 5 days after that conversation. But he's doing a good job. He's a creative mind. I think he's assembled a good staff. They've gotten the school to invest in the program. They're doing a lot of good things on the NIL side of things. But as far as their team, it's a good group. It's a good group. I think the offense is a little more talented than the defense. I was impressed with John Rice Plumlee and the way he played, even though he's clearly still not 100%. To me, I thought he played a really nice game. They've got some guys at the skill spots. I think R.J. Harvey is one of the best backs in the Big 12, and I think Javon Baker he's one of the most talented wide receivers I've seen this season in the Big 12, and he had a big day against the Sooners. But the defense for UCF, I think the strength of the defense is in the secondary. So when they play teams that, really run it efficiently, that have good offensive line, I don't think there's a bunch of, top-end talent along the defensive front there for the Knights. So I think it's going to be up and down for them. They have not won a conference game so far. I would bet they're going to win one against Cincinnati or Houston. They still have both those teams left on the schedule. But yeah, it's going to take some time, right, for them to build at the line of scrimmage. and for Gus Malzahn to continue to develop that program. They're playing a new kind of grind now in the Big 12. They're playing against a bunch of teams that have been, recruiting to the Big 12 when they haven't had that ability. And I've got faith in Malzahn if he stays there long enough to build that thing up. They're always going to have speed at the skill positions being down there in the state of Florida, but what they need is better guys at the line of scrimmage, and then they got to continue to recruit and have a difference-making player at the quarterback spot, in my opinion.
Yeah, they need more Gabe Ikards on the offensive line.
I don't know. Their offensive line, it's not a bad group.
Right.
It's not a bad group. Now, they're a little undersized at a couple spots, especially at center, but overall, they battle. They're good, but there's no doubt they need to get deeper along the offensive line. They've had some injuries. They've had to plug some guys in. There's a bit of a drop off there, and I think that'll come right now that they are recruiting to a Power 5 conference. I think that'll come, and I would assume they'll attack the transfer portal as well. But yeah, they're having a rough go of it in year one, and that's what I expected from them. Going back and looking, I know a lot of people thought that they were going to have the best chance of any of the newcomers this year. I picked UCF to go 5-7 before the season, so I think that's where they end up landing. So I think there's some positive things to take away from how they've played in this first season in the Big 12, but there's undoubtedly work to be done there.
Malik Murphy starts this week for Texas, Gabe.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And look, there is, plenty. If you're a Texas fan, there's plenty of reason to be excited to see him play a full game, given the talent that he has. But he has not played against someone in another jersey for very long in any game. What is the biggest challenge for Steve Sarkisian to make sure that Malik Murphy does not see ghosts for the rest of his time as the Texas quarterback? Because those first couple starts sometimes can make or break guys.
Right. And if you saw him go in the Houston game, the guy was jacked up. Right, you could tell the blood was pumping. He was feeling it a little bit, and I think the biggest challenge for Malik Murphy is just going out there and just doing your job. Right, you don't have to do any more than that. Right, you don't have to go out there and try to beat Quinn Ewers. You have to go out there, trust your preparation, and do your job. Right, and you got to do that knowing everyone in the country is watching to see if you're any good or not. I do think it's funny. I've seen a lot of Texas fans. They're like, he was awesome in the spring game. We're not worried at all. It's like, it's the damn spring game. What are you talking about? It does not matter. Right, it is not the same as going and playing those grown men from BYU. But, and this is something that the leaders in that locker room need to get across to Malik Murphy. It's not all about him, right? Football is the ultimate team game, right? He doesn't need to do any more than what he's supposed to do out there. And it's up to those guys around him, the guys on that offense. They got a lot of experience and a lot of talent on that offense. It's up to everyone else on that team to play well and to make Malik Murphy's life easy on Saturday, right? That wide receiver core, step up. That offensive line, who's been a little up and down, in my opinion, make life easy on Malik Murphy. Now, I am interested to see how much Steve Sarkisian puts on his plate when it comes to the RPO stuff, because despite some of Quinn Ewers' flaws, he was pretty efficient in knowing, hey, when to hand the run off, when to take the RPO stuff on the outside, when to pull the run out of the running back's belly, throw the slant in behind the linebackers. He was a good decision maker for the most part in those situations, and that's a big part of what Texas wants to do offensively. How efficiently does Malik Murphy operate in those situations? I think that's definitely something I'm interested in seeing, and I think he's going to be fine because I think they're just going to hand the ball to Jonathan Brooks and C.J. Baxter a lot. BYU is not good at stopping the run. They're also not good at running the football. So I think that Texas is they're going to have a big talent advantage in that game. I don't think Malik Murphy is going to have to do anything superhuman. It's not a game. I think he's going to have to win, throwing the ball all over the yard. I think they're going to be able to run it really efficiently and lean on that run game. But, yeah, I am very, very intrigued to watch Malik Murphy on Saturday. And it seems like a lot of people would be even more intrigued if he struggles. And then people want to see what Steve Sarkisian would do if he does struggle. But I think he's going to be just fine.
Gabe, I mean, it sure seems like the odds favor a rematch being the collision course for the Big 12 title game, but there are some interesting contenders outside of those top two that will soon be leaving. Which intrigues you more? What's going on in Ames? What's going on in Manhattan with the quarterback situation and how that's provided a spark, or what's going on in Stillwater with the Cowboys and Mike Gundy?
Man, it is interesting. You are correct. It is crazy when you think about what we were saying about Iowa State after they lost to Ohio, and then what we were saying about Oklahoma State after they played off their own field against South Alabama just about a little over a month ago. Both teams are playing some really good football. So I think out of all the teams right now, because there's definitely a conversation going on about, okay, who is the third best team in the Big 12? If I had to pick it right now, and I know that it's silly because K-State just played in Stillwater a couple weeks ago and went and lost, but I still think K-State's the third best team in the Big 12. And I think that the two quarterback system, while we've been told forever that if you've got two, you don't have one, it's working pretty dang well for Chris Kleiman there in the Wildcats. And I've been impressed with the way that Will Howard has handled it. I've been impressed with what I've seen from Avery Johnson. That is a talented young QB that the Wildcats have. But I'm also impressed just how the team has handled it. I think that both of those guys are very well liked in that locker room, and that has resulted in kind of this jolt of energy for that program. We'll see what it looks like for the rest of the way for Kansas State, but they still have Texas on the schedule, and then they get Iowa State the last game of the season, and who knows? I mean, that could be a game that has massive implications. Oklahoma State is interesting, though, because, and this is something I was talking about on Big 12 earlier today, guys. You look across the country right now, and you start having you start a conversation about non-quarterbacks that could be in the Heisman Trophy picture. And the first two running backs that I think are in the conversation are Jonathan Brooks at Texas and Ollie Gordon at Oklahoma State. Ollie Gordon has been an absolute monster for Oklahoma State, and he's doing it behind, I believe, a very average offensive line for the Cowboys. Alan Bowman's making really good decisions with the football. His accuracy's been really good, but you look at Ollie Gordon, 282 and 4 touchdowns against West Virginia last week. I mean, he has just been an absolute monster for the Cowboys. So I've been really impressed with them. I still have some question marks about Oklahoma State's defense and just kind of where they're at in that new system under Brian Nardo.
Gabe, as always, appreciate your time and the knowledge, insight, experience, man. Have a great day. Thanks for your time.
Hey, you guys, they're down there in Waco, boys. It'll all be okay.
We'll figure it out week to week if it will be. Thank you, buddy. Gabe Ikard from Big 12 Network, Sirius XM, former All-American at Oklahoma. This is 365 Sports.
Everybody probably at some point has to battle the weight issue. You get a little lazy, you start to eat too much, and you're not working out. Your metabolism is not good. And so you look for a way, the easy way, to be able to continue to be undisciplined with your diet or what you do with exercise. And there are options. There is one way that works every time, because it's methodically taking care of working out, losing weight along with inches, and that feeling of when you put a pair of pants on and all of a sudden they're a little more loose. That's a great feeling. You just feel better. Walk through the front door at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. Ask for help. The personal trainers from Christy London to Randall Corley to Nathan Roach. And then on top of that, they have all the equipment you could imagine, from weights to machines, classes galore every single day. But you have to walk through the front door. They will help you once you do. The best way, the most methodical way, and the best way to not just lose inches and weight, but also sustain the success of all the hard work, blood, sweat, and tears. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. When it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Action Network HQ, Brett McMurphy joins us on 365 Sports. Has been a go-to for us through the last several years, and we appreciated, man, during realignment, he was money too. He joins us today on 365 Sports. Brett, are this Michigan and the allegations and the stories that are coming out, we see things in college athletics where like, oh my God, we clutched the pearls. This is the worst thing ever. In the end, do you have any idea how this might end up as far as what it may do to Michigan?
I don't. I know there's so much stuff out there now. And look, I mean, it's pretty obvious. They were going to extreme measures to steal signals, be able to track signals, all that stuff. Okay, but when we cut through all that, you have some people on one side, if they hate Mitch, give them the death penalty. They should be banned from the playoffs. Well, guess what? That ain't going to happen. The Big Ten is not going to let their cash cow be ruled ineligible because some coach is out there stealing plays. So that ain't going to happen. Sorry, Michigan haters. But it is a rule that was broken. But we know how quickly the NCAA doesn't move. They move as quick as a glacier. So I really think, look, David, I really think that nothing's going to happen this year that will impact this year's team as far as any on-the-field penalties. And as quickly as the NCAA doesn't move, I've said this before, I think by the time the NCAA rules on this, Harbaugh will be in his second season coaching the Bears. I don't think anything's going to happen. It's bad, but again, when you get down to it, what the rules that were broken, there really aren't even penalties for that. And one person brought up a good point, the WikiLeaks that happened with Wake Forest, where you had a guy literally stealing, playbooks and plays. And I mean, that was, I think, probably worse than this. Because basically everybody steals signs, maybe not to this extreme or goes to this level of espionage and all this other stuff, which makes great content for you guys and everybody else. But yeah, bottom line is I don't think anything happens to him this year. I think I'm surprised Harbaugh's lasted this long at Michigan. I always thought he would go back to the NFL. Now he's got a perfect shot. And look, if Michigan was lacking motivation, boy, they got it now. I mean, that's against the world. They're going to take all this, and that's why Vegas right now has them the favorite to win the national title.
Yeah, well, I mean, what could be better for him? I mean, again, nothing's going to happen to him. Like, if you say, well, this is against the rules, well, A, what's the NCAA going to do to him? He could Pete Carroll his way into the NFL and be with the Bears or the Raiders or somebody, but probably the Bears. And then, Michigan gets hit a couple years later. And then by then, they probably already made rule changes about, radios and helmets and things like that take sign stealing out of it, right?
Yeah, we're going to vacate some wins. We're going to take a banner down, whatever. I mean, look, everyone wants to get outraged. Everybody wants, somebody to, get their head chopped off. But, I go back to point number one. It's the NCAA. So we'll see what happens.
Brett McMurphy with us, Action HQ with us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. What are your thoughts about the end game with Oregon State, Washington State? There was news that kind of came down a little bit about today, and God knows who has a vote, who doesn't have a vote, what's going to happen. Do you have at least the inside sources that you have any idea how that ends? I'm asking you about a couple of endings that we don't know about.
Yeah, look, I don't know how this is going to end, and I've talked to people that are involved with college football playoff about going forward with the 12-team model next year, and they don't know. They are waiting to see how this thing is resolved, and nobody knows 100% how it will be resolved. And obviously, Oregon State and Washington State believe that they deserve their conference, whatever that is, deserves an automatic bid for the college football playoff in 2024 and 2025, the last 2 years of this current 12-year deal. Obviously, Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, has come out publicly and said, look, we've had conferences and now we're basically down to 4, so we need to revisit this. The fact that Sankey's out ahead of this and he's very public with it, I don't think they're going to get that, power automatic designation that they so dearly want. And it's not even It's not really even having that automatic, because it's going to go by conference champs. They'll just lop one of the conference champs off and add in a large bid. It's not the conference champ designation. It's the money part. Surprise, surprise. We're talking about money in college athletics. The power conferences right now get the biggest pieces of the pie of the college football playoff revenue, and the group of five get a minuscule amount. In fact, that's what today Army announced officially they're going to the American. Why are they going to the American? Because they will make more money as a member of the American conference from the college football playoff, whether they go 12-0 or 0-12, than they made as an independent from the college football playoff. They made, this is a couple of years ago. I don't know if it's up to date or not, so I apologize. But basically, they made like $100,000, $200,000 from the college football playoff. You've got teams making millions of dollars from the college football playoff. Just the revenue from the media rights deal. That is not teams that go to the playoff. This is just basically being in a Power 5 conference. Oh, here's your check. Have a great day. So ultimately, money's going to determine what happens with them. You know, it gets tricky because, you know, they'd like to kind of merge with the Mountain West, but be very honest, they're not thrilled with, you know, probably half of the Mountain West. You can figure out which half. And would love to take half of them, but then the have-nots, if you will, the Mountain West, they're not going to vote to allow the haves to go to another conference unless, hey, you want to go, then okay, you're going to pay these huge exit fees, and then the teams that want to join as Pac-12 are like, wait, we don't want to pay an exit fee. We'll have the Oregon State and Washington State come join us. So yeah, it's tricky. It depends on who you talk to, whether you talk to Oregon State, Washington State, whether you talk to the top 6 from the Mountain West, or whether you talk to the bottom 6 from the Mountain West. But something's got to get done at some point, because Oregon State and Washington State's got to find. I guess they can play each other 6 times or something, home and home, to get to 12 games, because they're going to have to fill out a schedule at some point next year.
Brett, when it comes going back to Army for just a second, why would the Navy game be a non-conference if they're joining the conference?
Because they get like this. Put me on a repeat. Because of money,
Okay.
they get a huge TV deal from CBS to play that game the second Saturday in December every year.
Gotcha.
So you can't have that be a conference game when the conference championship game is the week before. So basically, Army and Navy will never play as conference members unless there's some kind of scenario where Army and Navy actually finish first and second in the American. Then they would play the first Saturday in December in the AAC championship game. And then the following week, they would play each other again. That sounds weird, in a non-conference game in their usual time slot. So, look, they're not going to ever finish first and second in the American. I think that's a pipe dream. I think they probably realize it too. But that game is such a big deal to them. That's why, you know, they've tried to, you know, get bowls to kind of make exceptions for them. To accept them without playing that game, even though they don't get 6 wins. And, you know, there was a time a few years ago where there were people within college football were like, hey, we're going to put Army and Navy to the screws and say, look, if you want to get into a bowl game, you've got to win 6 games. And if you don't like it, you're going to have to move this game. Well, yeah, I guess how well that went when you try to go up against Army and Navy and they get politicians involved. So that's basically why you know, Army and Navy will play a non-conference second Saturday in December. And, hey, I'm pulling for them. I'd love to see them have to play back-to-back seasons. And what if some bizarro world, you know, the winner of Army-Navy would get into the playoffs? Then they would have to play the first Saturday in the conference championship. They would have to play the next Saturday Army-Navy non-conference game. Then they have to play the next week, the first week of the playoffs. So that would be quite a stretch.
What do you think is happening? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paul. No, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
Brett, to the Pac-12 situation, or the Pac-2, is their best hope that they can get ruled that the Pac-12 is still the Pac-12 and everybody, no matter who's in it, and that because they agreed to that years ago, that they're still an automatic qualifier and hope that they have some kind of legal leg to stand on, or is that just a big shot in the dark?
Well, they and again, it's not the automatic qualifier because there are no automatic qualifiers, but it is the getting the revenue as a power league from the college football playoff. You know, they have no issue with if they're whatever conference makeup that it is. If they're not one of the top 5 conferences, then they would not get a automatic bid to the playoffs. So I don't think they're saying that they deserve an automatic bid no matter where they finish as a conference champ. And what they are fighting for is the money. And again, Sankey's been out front on this. I think Brett Yormark has talked about it as well. You know, look, it's not Oregon State and Washington State's fault. But nobody in their right mind can say a conference that lost 10 of their 12 members still deserves the same amount of revenue that you've had the previous 9 years when you had 12 members. I mean, that's common sense. But common sense doesn't usually mean much in college football. So the lawyers are getting involved and fighting this out, and we'll have to see what happens. The other thing that makes this tricky, guys, is any changes to the revenue sharing and all that minutia, it has to be unanimous in this 12-year deal. It has to be unanimous. So you're thinking right there, well, there's no way Oregon State or Washington State would approve any kind of change. That's true. But if the Power Four tells them, okay, if you're going to hold it, put the screws to us, you know, these last couple of years, then by God, when we go to the new format, it's going to be worth even more money. Paybacks are a bitch. So they'll never say that publicly, but that's kind of what's in play there. So that's why, yeah, I mean, you guys ask great questions. Look, you know me, I tell you what I know.
Yep.
I have no clue how this thing's going to end up. And I don't think anybody can honestly say they know 100% either. Everyone's just waiting for the dust to settle and for the lawyers to decide what's going to happen. I mean, the Pac-12 still going through, you know, are they a conference who can vote on the board, who can, Kleofkoff's, being depositioned and so yeah, it's fun times out west. And what sucks is the top 16 out of any league in the country, Pac-12 is better than anybody right now.
Absolutely.
But
yeah.
Nobody's looking at that because it's such a what show out there.
Yeah, it is. It's a dumpster fire in what you said show. Hey, Brett, thank you very much. There's always so many things we could talk about. Appreciate your access when we get it and availability, and have a great week.
Hey, you got it. I love that commercial playing before I came on, deep in the heart of Texas. Brought me back to my days covering high schools in Odessa, man. You have to play that for me every time.
Did you cover then the Permian-Odessa game, the great rivalry of the Midland-Lee and all that?
Come on, man, you're killing me, dude.
Yep.
This is how ancient I am. I covered those guys as sophomores. Got a job in Tampa. Buzz Bissinger came in the next year and did Friday Night Lights.
Oh,
all my buddies give me grief. They go, I guarantee you were at some country bar drinking dollar Coronas and said, hey, I got a great idea for a book. I'll call it Friday Night Lights. Oh, screw it. Give me another Corona. Somebody overheard me and stole my idea the next year.
Oh, my God. Well, you still are famous for what you do covering college football, my man. Thanks for your time, Brett. Have a great night. Give me another Corona.
Look, Odessa, no offense to Odessa, but we were out there. Maybe I'm just still a little bitter about our overall experience. Last year, Smokey, you and I were out there. But Odessa to Tampa is a nice upgrade.
No, it's a great deal. With all due respect to the Midland, Odessa area, it wasn't Odessa's fault that we had a plane flight back to Dallas canceled. It was Southwest Airlines.
I think, you know what, Smokey, I think about that because I got caught up in it again at Christmas time. I think we were the first wave of that was where Southwest had a problem, and we just didn't know that.
Well, we were too stupid to know it better.
we didn't. We just had to get back here.
Cost me a $300 ticket in Milford, Texas. Yes.
Yeah, or do you have anything to follow up on that?
The Lincoln Riley update from Chris Trevino, who covers USC. He's being treated for pneumonia per a spokesperson. He was and has returned to practice at USC after missing a couple of days.
that's good. As much as it is to say you can have good news when it's pneumonia. Yeah, that's obviously very rough, and that explains at least the absences here recently. It's just the timing of it all was so funny, and quite frankly, given his history and how he left in the middle of the dark against in Oklahoma, he doesn't deserve or get the benefit of the doubt really when things are kind of going weird, and there's always that leap to the NFL that he can make at any given moment. So, yeah, I mean, that's good to have some clarification, and that certainly explains the absence and all that came with some of that speculation surrounding that. So, yeah, good to have some clarity. Meanwhile, there's a couple of games tonight for college football fans out there. And the reason why I'm mentioning this, not only just as a reminder, but you got Jacksonville State at FIU later on tonight. Jacksonville State 6-2 on the road. FIU there 4-4. But also, and that will start at 6, but then at 7, you've got a battle of blech here in the state of Texas as the winless Sam Houston Bearcats play host to 2-6. Wow, that'd be more exciting actually than this game probably. 2-6 UTEP. And the reason why I bring that up is not because I'm just big supporter of all the Texas programs, although I am, but apparently UTEP left its white road jerseys back in El Paso accidentally, according to a few reports and Colin Deaver as well. And so they were supposed to pack the home blue jerseys, but they ended up packing the home blue jerseys, and so they will be in blue, and Sam Houston will be wearing orange tonight. So you'll have blue versus orange in the battle, which will be interesting TV for eyeballs out there rather than what it was supposed to be. But why I even bring that up is because I just had a panic attack even thinking about the panic attack that the equipment manager must have had when you arrive at your destination and you're like, oh my God, we packed the wrong jerseys. Like, I don't know how, I mean, I can understand brain farts and whatever, but like, dude, the level of panic and just that must have occurred.
75 guys probably you take on a trip out of the, like the dress for road games, take less, not everybody dresses for the road games, but yeah. And you know what it's going to look like? That's going to look like a commercial. Like where, like somebody's like walking through a football field going, when I need a uniform. When I need a close shave, I go for Henneman's shaving cream, and like there's a like a generic football game in the background.
No, yeah, I mean it's going to be a weird look, and yeah, that does seem like it will look awfully similar to some of those just very generic, bland. Here's not the Chicago Bears, but something that kind of looks like it. But yeah, so they'll be in orange versus, or the UTEP will be in blue, Sam Houston in orange. But man, would love to interview the equipment manager in charge of the proper jerseys and when that was discovered and what that must have been like. But there you go. There's college football for you.
I'm surprised that hasn't happened more often. I think it happens probably a couple of times, 3 or 4 times a year when it comes to college basketball. I think Baylor one time where somebody didn't have the jerseys. But that's unfortunate. But good news, Lincoln Riley. Bad news, he's fighting pneumonia, which can be very, very deadly. And the good news, he's back in practice, and maybe some of the speculation will stop at least for now. When we come back, Paul Catalina and his top 5. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, used to be. 1 out of 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and that might be you. Low testosterone can affect your sex drive. It could create ED. It could also be a problem when it comes to your focus, your energy, and even your sleep habits. Those are some of the symptoms. If you have any of those, it could be something completely different. But it could be your testosterone. So Dr. Kent Petty and his staff, PettyClinicLowT.com, top left-hand corner. There's a phone number. There's an email. Contact them. Tell them I sent you, and they will set you up to get your blood work, take care of that for you. They'll get the results. Then they'll be in touch with you if your testosterone level is too low, and they can increase it. Dr. Kent Petty, PettyClinicLowT.com. Be the man you want to be, need to be, used to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 upset alerts for Week 9. I did not get to do this one yesterday, so we held it because I had to go be a good husband. But... yeah.
Yeah. We're going to meet after the show.
Yeah.
By the way.
No, that. Oh, yeah. Anyway, number 5, and this was tough to do upset alerts this week. BYU against Texas. They're on the road. The only reason I put this on the list is Texas has Malik Murphy starting, and if BYU can somehow get in his dome, then that's an upset chance for them. I do not think they can stop the run enough. With Jonathan Brooks being part of this, it makes the soft landing so much softer for Malik Murphy as he's stepping into an offense that's already got studs all over it. And so I don't know if BYU can stop him, but if they can somehow get Malik Murphy's head, then maybe this is an upset alert, and these will get progressively better as they go along. But this is a rough week to call upsets on. As a matter of fact, I would think most of the upsets you're going to see are going to be more like North Carolina or Virginia over North Carolina last week, where no one would see it coming.
Yeah, that was incredibly surprising to see the Cavs get that win. But, man, that's just we never really talked in depth about that. But that's just Mac Brown, right? Like just dropping a game like that when things are going so well. I know he's won a big title before, but, man, he could have had so many more if not for games like that happening on a regular basis. But, BYU had a great win last week over Texas Tech. Obviously, a lot of turnovers played into that. But it didn't do a whole lot to change my mind that they're okay on defense, to good at times, and I'm just still not a fan of what they can do offensively with regularity. So I have a hard time seeing how they're going to run the football, and I don't love the idea of Keaton Slovis having to sling it around to get you to win a game, right? Much less that's just the offensive side of it. Oh, yeah, then what do you do on defense? But I think you're right. Like, defense is where you probably can win this game because of the quarterback situation, so long as you do force him into some mistakes or he makes some mistakes and you're able to capitalize on those. This one, it didn't change my feel for it. Like I just banked on Texas winning this game, so the quarterback change didn't change my mind really in the slightest. I think Texas is still 17.5-point favorites in this game, and I do think that they'll win. But the Malik Murphy wild card here and just the unknown about him does make it interesting because, yeah, there could be those first start jitters and, the things just kind of slide sideways, and it's one of those Saturdays. But, it's a possibility.
Yeah, you 17.5 points. They're so explosive. And you wonder what it would be if Malik Murphy wasn't starting the quarterback. And I think he's a fantastic young prospect.
And in many regards, Malik Murphy's auditioning for a lot of different things. He's auditioning to be the starting quarterback when Quinn Ewers leaves over Arch Manning. And if that's not going to be the case, if Arch Manning eventually beats him out, then he was auditioning to be the starting quarterback somewhere else. So
yeah, he's getting NIL offers based on his audition.
Yeah, and then you'll get the argument, well, no, this is all a plan in place. Everybody has a price, even though at Texas they can pretty much meet most of them.
Yeah. I mean, that's just fans.
That's also playing time issue.
Yeah, that's a lot of different things. But point being, if he plays well, there will be, and even if he doesn't, there will be people who are in his DMs already because quarterbacks are such a craving for teams out there that, yeah, he's going to be a guy that if he goes out and performs, whatever he's already probably been talked to about or people have inferred could skyrocket in a major way. Yeah.
Number 4, Utah versus Oregon. This one, again, really, the only reason it's an upset is that Utah doesn't have Bo Nix, but it would not surprise me and shouldn't surprise anybody. What?
You mean Cam Rising?
No, I mean, like, Bo Nix is the difference in this game to me. And
Utah doesn't. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, Bo Nix is the difference in this game to me in that Utah, very well, if they had if Cam Rising was playing, I wouldn't even have put this game on the list at all. But, Barnes is going to have to go in there and create some magic again, and he's not going to be going against a defense that is a turnstile like USC's is, but it is Utah, and they've managed to do weird stuff all year. So let's see it again. Let's get weird, Utah.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a team, I'm not going to put it past them to win a game where they're not favored. It's Utah. I think that program's just so tremendous that you give them a chance anytime they go out there. They're less than touchdown dogs. So what does that tell you? And at home, there's also that element to this as well. So, yeah, there is definitely some ingredients involved here. Just the performance last week and the big win and all the confidence in Bryson Barnes now. Something's going to have to give against these defenses as far as the running game goes, unless it's just going to be a shootout with a bunch of big plays, which I guess is possible. But both these teams going up against defenses that are pretty stingy against the run. And in Utah's case, that's been a little bit of a bugaboo for them is trying to get that going. So, I mean, it's Utah. So gloves off and yeah, certainly a possibility they could pull the upset here.
Number 3, Colorado versus UCLA. Look, UCLA is played better than Colorado the whole of the season, really. But Colorado has still got Shadur Sanders. They still can score a bunch. They're going to be a problem for any defense that they play. And while UCLA's defense is pretty good, Colorado's just going to be a problem. Now, if they're the Colorado we've seen after the first 3 weeks, then yeah, I mean, UCLA is probably going to win this game, but again, I don't put anything past this Buffalo team and with the amount of points that they can score if they get on a heater.
Yeah, I mean, they've had time to prepare, right? They've had what seems like a long break. It's only been a weekend. It seems like they haven't played in like a month, I guess, because
we just Friday game.
Yeah, but because we just heard so much about them, though, that like they haven't played, and so it's just like, oh yeah, Colorado. That's a story still. Yeah, I'm very intrigued by how they play. UCLA had great success with the quarterback change. Dante Moore is a good young prospect, but they decided that just too many mistakes, and they go with Garbers, and that worked out well for them last week. So, that'll be obviously a big part of this is that quarterback battle, Garbers versus Shadur, and who can have the better game. But UCLA's a good team, man, and I think that they're the favorites for a reason here. But Colorado, they have enough playmakers, and we've seen them how they can score points. The defense is obviously but they can score enough most of the time. Now, can they score on this UCLA defense at will like they have against some others? That'll be the big curious part of this, but they got to be able to get stops on defense themselves, and that's been a big issue for them.
You wonder how much they've been able to tighten things up with the week off, and how much they could change in a week, but perhaps they get enough done.
What's the line on that game? Do y'all know off the top of your
I'm
head?
going to guess it's 13.
Let me see here.
I'm just going to guess. It's higher than I thought.
UCLA at 17-point favorites.
Okay.
So there you go.
So,
and by the way, that's one of the games in our pick'em. That's the TexasBeefHouse.com pick'em. That's one of the games in that group.
Number 2, Georgia versus Florida, the cocktail party in Jacksonville. And the only reason I say this is that if you watch the Gators and what they've done this year, you heard Chuck Cooperstein talk about it earlier in the week on the show, that on the field he's not thrilled with the product that Billy Napier has put out there. But I do think that Billy Napier, and he's trying to, like you say, he's probably trying to do too much. But if you look at their offense, it is like, to call it vanilla would be a compliment. But that's what they kind of have to do because they have 2 really good playmakers in Ricky Pearsall and Trevor Etienne. But Graham Mertz is a bus driver, and he's not Keanu Reeves or Sandra Bullock driving the bus. He is a school bus driver, and they've done well with that. Defensively, they're pretty solid, but again, there's nothing like about most of their defense that's going to be like, holy crap, look who's coming around the edge, like there will be on Georgia. But this is a huge rivalry game. He'll have them playing, I think, within themselves pretty well, and Georgia's just, they've played fast and loose with things, and Brock Bowers not going to be there for another week. Could make this interesting. I don't think it'll happen. Georgia's a massive favorite, but, crazier things have happened, and when it comes to huge rivalry games like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long-standing rivalry, so those things can always get kind of wonky. Even though Georgia's shown a little bit of flaws here and there, it's still just like they just keep on moving on, right? It's like when is that day going to come where they finally drop a game? Because they're on a hell of a run right now. But yeah, I mean, this is one to definitely pay attention to, one of the bigger games of the entire weekend, and just some bad blood here. So, Billy Napier's got some good things going on. Is it enough in the end? Obviously, most people don't think so. That's why Georgia's still, over 2 touchdown favorites. But yeah, who the heck knows, man? It could get wild out in Jacksonville, Florida for the world's largest cocktail party. So sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And number 1, Oregon State versus Arizona. If you're playing Noah Fafita and this Wildcat team, you're on upset alert because he can get hot. They have turned it around. Jed Fish really has found his, looks like he's starting to find his sea legs there as they get ready to come into the Big 12. They're going to get somebody else, and Oregon State standing in their way this week as well as they've played. But if I'm Oregon State, I am absolutely on the highest of alerts for an upset this week because Arizona's been playing really well.
Yeah, they've been much better. Moving on from Jaden DeLore, Fafita's given them something there at the quarterback spot. Oregon State's just so stingy on defense, and that has been part of their calling card. I'd still like Oregon State, but yeah, Arizona's been feisty enough that you got to pay attention. And the way they just whooped on Washington State was surprising. I mean, just how lopsided that game was. So big opportunity for Jed Fish. I mean, a top 10-ish type of a win would be absolutely massive for that program. You're at home. So that's part of, I think, Oregon State's identity too, is when they're at home especially, it's just like, man, it's like almost impossible, right? Or it feels that way. So yeah, the fact that this game's in Tucson, we going to talk to our buddy Jason? Have you reached out to him at all?
Yeah, no.
We're about due to talk Arizona, I think. But
no, if he can't help us with realignment, screw him. No, that's it. Paul, you brought that up in a text.
He did help for a good long while.
I think he ended up being the guy that made it all happen.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
If we can if there's an opening tomorrow, that's a great get. I'll try to talk to him.
Yeah, no, it's just been a long time since we spoke, and they still got. Let's see, UCLA coming up, Colorado, Utah. So there's some other games out there for them as well, and then Arizona State at the end of the year. But, yeah, like what Jed Fish has going on, like what Oregon State's got going on a lot more. But, yeah, they definitely need to have their antennas up against these Wildcats.
I love the stories. We knew Oregon State would be good. I love the stories when some teams, come out of nowhere. That's one right there, that they are now a problem. And it'll be fun to see how they finish if they can sustain that. A couple of college basketball notes to close it out. Despite Bob Huggins, resigning and leaving West Virginia, The Mountaineers, thanks to Joey for sending him in this, found and get the commitment from 5-star recruit Cooper Flagg over Duke and UConn. So it's a huge deal for West Virginia men's basketball. Craig brought up earlier the commitment of the young man out of Missouri. I just went blank on his name.
Ryan Wingo.
Ryan Wingo, a 5-star stud that committed to Texas, and they flipped that around lately. It's a huge deal for Steve Sarkisian. And Jalen Bridges has been named to the 2024 Julius Erving Award Watch list from the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. All right? Thank you, Garrett. Appreciate what you do. Jack McKenzie, Emery Winters working on 365 Sports tonight, every weeknight at 10:30 on the CW. And for Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, our great sponsors every day, thank you for being here every day. Have a great night. This is 365 Sports.